What's up and welcome back
I always forget about Jen. I always forget about Jen at the end.
Kind of Funny's Ghostbusters in review. That's right. We are ranking, reviewing, and recapping every single Ghostbusters movie. Of course, I am Tim Geddes. I'm joined by the Nitro Rifle, Andy Cortez.
Bustin' makes me feel good.
The producer / seducer, Nick Scarpino.
It makes me feel good too, Andy.
And the biggest Ghostbusters fan I know, Greg Miller.
It makes me feel good as well.
Yeah.
As a trio.
Really excited to be here talking to you about all this stuff.
I can't wait.
We'll get into it in just a second, though, because I got to do the rigmarole. Of course, this is in review each and every week. We get together to talk about movies. We rank them, we review them, we recap them. It's a great time. We've done pretty much every franchise in recorded history, with very, very few exceptions. And I'm sure one day we'll get to all of those as well. You can watch on YouTube or you can listen on podcast services around the globe. Just search for Kind of Funny in Review. We'll be right there for you. Next week, we will return to the Monsterverse with Godzilla Cross Kong, The New Empire. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
They gave him a glove.
Is that what it's called?
They gave him a power glove.
Yeah.
Man, they give him like a robot arm.
But it's
I've seen this trailer a million times. I never knew what it was called.
Yeah, because remember, Greg, he injured his arm in the last one.
I'll tell you what. Not only do I not remember being on this in review, I don't remember any fucking thing. They went to the center of the earth, right, and fought at some point.
He injured his arm in the fight against Mechagodzilla when it was him and Godzilla teaming up. Mm-hmm.
There was no Mechagodzilla in these movies, was there?
Yeah.
Greg, there's a trick for when you don't remember that you're on an in review. You just let Tim think it was Joey, and then you have Joey go see it, and then she's got to review it.
What that happened for? Because it was
Transformers.
For my other one, it was Indiana Jones, where it wasn't until you watched the intro, like, fuck, Greg was in this. I was like, I don't remember.
Oh, man, here we are, everybody. Anyways,
movies.
Today we're talking about Ghostbusters. Shout out to our Patreon producers, Carl Jacobs, Kashan Patel, Nathan Lamoth, Karen Lindner, James Hastings, and Casey Andrew. Today we're brought to you by Shady Race and Robin Hood, but we'll tell you all about that later. Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire. Came out March 22nd, 2024, with a runtime of 115 minutes, just shy of 2 hours there. It was directed by Gil Keenan. Gil was a writer on the last movie, Ghostbusters Afterlife. He also directed Monster House, the 2006 animated movie that got nominated for Best Animated Feature at the Academy Awards.
a fun one.
Did Haunted Mansion ever come out?
With Jamie Lee Curtis?
That had to.
Oh, yeah, it did come out.
Came out. Yeah.
You want to add that to Ghostbusters in review?
He also directed Poltergeist, the remake in 2015.
Oh, I never saw that.
It was okay.
Yeah.
It was okay.
I mean, I'm surprised we didn't see some sort of Poltergeist sequel trailer before this movie. Hey, word of warning out there, if you haven't watched the movie yet and you plan on it, a lot of scary trailers.
Yeah, don't bring your kids.
A lot of scary trailers,
It's pretty
dude.
wild, honestly. Like they went there. Like I guess that wasn't a Red Band trailer, but it pushed the limits a bit with this tarot card movie,
It was
right?
a bad time. I was looking down the whole time. I was
It was so scary.
I was eating
because
some Minute Maid cherry limeade ice.
Oh, nice.
It
Yeah,
was
that's what you gotta
delicious.
do.
And I didn't have a spoon at first. So I just kind of did a little finger. I fingered it a little bit.
Oh, you fingered your
But then
eyes?
I went to go get a spoon.
Yeah.
Fucking weird.
Yeah.
What is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire rated? Is it a PG-13?
It's got to be PG-13.
It must be, right?
Right?
pretty
Because I
scary.
think Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is scary. Like, I think, don't get me wrong, I understand, like, the beware of these
PG-13.
trailers. I would also tell you not to bring a kid to this. Like, I don't think this is
There's some spooky moments. Yeah.
I mean, I think, people are dying.
It's just they love doing the it's quiet. Bang! So they love doing that. About 20 times in this movie.
So now a budget of $100 million, and there's no real box office numbers because it is not even officially, or I guess it is now officially out. But yeah, where should we start? Greg Miller. You talked about this a lot in different shows.
I was going to say, I'm way
pretend-
more interested in hearing you guys talk about it.
But I want to hear you talk about it because I don't like. What if people haven't heard you on all the other things?
Sure,
whatever.
fair
Like give your top level thoughts on this one.
So I've seen it now twice. Once at the New York premiere, once with
Your
my best friend Nick.
There it is.
Tim was there too. I think I think it's more. There's no short version of any of this, but the more interesting one is when this week in the review embargo went up and every outlet started posting their reviews. I've never been so blindsided and caught off guard to the point of like it shook me to my core. And there's a whole Greg way of me dealing with it of just and not even like I don't care if the movie's bad or people didn't like it. It was more the fact that Jen and I left that screening talking to each other, talking to the other people we knew there, the other fans, everything. And everybody's like, that was a really fun movie. Yeah, this wasn't great or that wasn't, but it was fun. It was good. I liked it. I had fun. Blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so to wake up on Tuesday or whatever it was and look, and IG is like 4 out of 10, and Rotten Tomatoes like 45. I was like, fuck. It's like the Batman v Superman thing was always kind of a joke, right? It was just, I always said, I thought it's a good movie. It's not the movie I wanted. You know what I mean? And then that became me having to defend it when people were like, it's worse than Green Lantern. I'm like, it's not worse than Green Lantern. But it was like, I don't really give a shit. You know what I mean? And like, this was like one of those things of like, I objectively thought this was a fun movie. Is it bad? Is it bad? Could I not see it? And then that calls into question me ever talking about anything again if I can't say that this is a poorly
You've
made
questioned your
film.
reality. And
Maybe
again,
you did like come from a different.
Are you in a different reality?
Yeah, different multiverse.
maybe
So-
you can just pop back to ours now.
So then to have you guys see it and be like, no, it was fun. And there's plenty to critique and like plenty of like, I would have edited or done this, blah, 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 whatever. I still stand by, especially after seeing it again last night and that was when I was like, all right, what sucks? What do people fucking hate? Like for me, as a Ghostbusters fan, I still say this is a 4 out of 5. I had a great time with this movie. I think it's a great movie. It's a great Ghostbusters flick. I think it is actually like, you know, if you would have talked to me leaving 89 Ghostbusters, like as a 6-year-old kid, and been like, what do you want out of the next one? I would have pitched, not obviously the family dynamics and yada, 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 but like, I want them in the firehouse being Ghostbusters. Like, you know what I mean? I really think that when the run up to this movie was happening and, you know, Kumail was like, oh yeah, it's inspired by real Ghostbusters. And a lot of people talked about that. That set my expectations at a place that this met of like, cool, it's going to be them doing the jobs and being the Ghostbusters. And like, to tell you what I want out of a Ghostbusters film, because every fan and every movie viewer obviously is going to want something different to a degree. Like not I'm in awe of it, but like when I was like, I can't believe I'm finally getting to see this happen, was Carrie Coon, right? Walking around doing the laundry.
Yeah.
When I was like,
Hanging
this
out.
is so fucking cool.
She's in the flight suit, but she's,
they're
like,
just
tied it.
existing in
Yeah.
the firehouse and they're going to go do laundry next to the containment unit. It's like, that is such a animated series, yada, yada, yada,
Totally.
that I'm like, that is the kind of shit I want. I do want to see them just exist as Ghostbusters. I do want, like, yeah, maybe this, my greatest hope, and when we'll get to the spoilery recaps and all that, is like the ending just begins an animated series where there's like, cool, now that, you know, go do this thing and we're going to let that be Ghostbusters from here on out. But it's like, this movie, like, I had a great time with throughout. I definitely think there's weak parts. There's things that don't make sense yet, all the shit, you know what I mean? But like, I loved this movie.
Nick.
It was fun but forgettable. I think that it's a good movie. I definitely don't think it's a 4 out of 10. I think I would score it way higher if I was putting a point score to it. I wasn't bored through it. I do, however, think it's just missing magic. I think it's a lot of interesting elements kind of thrown together, and they don't really come out to make something wonderful at the end. I left it with a smile on my face. I had a fun time watching it with you guys, but I will probably never watch it again.
Andy Cortez.
I thought it was okay. I do think it felt really imbalanced and like out of tempo with a lot of the, you know, whether it's story beats or trying to make humor work. And I think a lot of the humor did work and a lot of it didn't. It just felt like very, like just 50-50. Whatever they're attempting may feel good as you're watching it. But I think there's like a lot of like very just odd. I used the word preposterous outside of Roger.
You did say that.
Because there's a lot of like just wild stuff that they are attempting, and to have it all kind of come together in a way that somewhat makes sense, even though maybe motivations are not only motivations, but like logic of what characters decide to do kind of makes you go, oh, I don't know if that would actually happen. But
100%.
the fact that it all kind of comes together was surprising. And yeah, I had a good time with it. I think it takes a while to get going, and near the middle of the movie is where I started like feeling like, okay, here we go. The movie's starting, and it's not like where Greg talks about the existing in just the Ghostbusters firehouse. There's just a lot of like, I think, not great attempts at humor and some things that do hit, and it's like, why is Finn Wolfhard here? Like, Slimer's just kind of useless. But anyway, I thought it was like totally fine. And I don't know if I like it more than Afterlife or not, though. I think I might. I don't know. We'll have to see.
We'll get to
I didn't
those
make a
rankings
ranking though. It's a great. I just remember that right now.
Yeah, it's okay. There's not too many of them. I think we'll be able
Timothy,
to keep
what
it
did you
straight
think?
here. I enjoyed this movie. I definitely do not think it's a 4 out of 10 in any stretch of the imagination. I feel like it's a good Ghostbusters movie. I do wish Ghostbusters movies were better. I feel like there's a lot about the world that I want to enjoy, and I feel like, what is it, 5 movies in now?
For
Is
this Canon Spengler verse, one more of 2016.
Okay, yeah. So
5.
in the 5 movies, I feel like there's elements of each one that I like, but I don't think that there's any one that I'm like, I really liked that movie.
Sure.
I think that this is going to rank pretty high on my list, but I also feel like my list is pretty invalid to most people that have thoughts on Ghostbusters. Where do I think that this is worse than 2016? I don't. Like, I think that the things that I like, I laughed harder in 2016. Like Chris Pratt, I mean,
Hemsworth.
there's nothing in this movie that funny. Having said that, I think that there's more in this movie that is consistently chuckle-worthy, and Paul Rudd's awesome.
God, he's so
and I feel like from everything I've heard about what Ghostbusters is, it's good comedians in a awkward situation that, like, they're kind of superheroes, but they're not superheroes, right? And we got that a bit here, but they also are superheroes. And I feel like when you lean too much into that, there's just too much in this movie where it is a little bit too superhero-y in both the Ghostbusters and side character perspective. And it's not a great superhero movie, and it's not the funniest comedy ever. And it's not like the original Ghostbusters, where it's a very specific type of comedy of Bill Murray and the boys and like that dry humor. It is more of like we're trying to be funny here, and it works a lot. I just think that when you compare it to like a full-on comedy, it's like, well, it's not that good. So it kind of puts it in this weird spot. But I had fun the entire time watching it. Like, it definitely has way too much, but there wasn't really much of it that I didn't like. Like, I don't think there's anything about this movie that is bad. Like, nothing. It's just all good. Very little great. A lot that's almost great, but just isn't quite there. I wish they committed further and lessened a lot of the other things. There's way too many characters. I actually care about a couple of them, but they don't follow through enough for me to like really be like, I like them.
One of the things you're hitting on, and I've seen in a lot of the criticisms, understandably understandably lodged at the film, right, is the fact that it's like, what does this want to be? And it's not trying to be a full-blown comedy, but it's also not trying to be a full-blown science fiction. Is it trying to be a superhero? Is it trying to be this? And I've seen so many of the things be like, who is this movie for? And what does that do? And I have plenty of thoughts about that. But I think taking away from the fact of what I want from it, or if it's what I wanted, right, it's the fact that that's what's going to hurt it. I don't think it's the quality of the film, the acting, the da-da-da. I think it is the fact that Afterlife set it up in such an interesting ending way of like, cool. First off, I was very much like, it could stop here. We could stop at Afterlife and be done, right? Oh, we're going to do more. Then you immediately, I was like, you're going to focus on the kids. It's going to be the kids' story. But for Frozen Empire to still be, it's the kids and the old people, right? And then it's hey, it's a kids movie, but it's not. You know what I mean? Like it's got sex dungeon jokes in it, and it's got, I think, a very scary ghost that isn't normal for the, Vigo was scary, sure, and Gozer scary, but not like this guy. I think
even the one that was like kind of peeking through in that little container. I was like, dude, this is horrifying to look at.
I think I watched the Ghostbusters so young, and I it will be a long conversation if Ben follows the same track of like, are you sure you want them? The most recent one's much scarier, but remember that Ghostbusters can't get hurt. You know what I mean? Like, there'll be a lot of prep I feel like I didn't get and need. Anyways, my thing is, I think that's what's going to hurt it, is that you're not, I keep talking about last Halloween being out dressed as a Ghostbuster with Jen and Ben and running into, I think it was 5 other kids dressed as Ghostbusters, and 4 of them were girls dressed like Phoebe. And it was that idea of like, man, I think they had something there, and I think this might be too scary for that to resonate with kids, even though I think the one narrative that is the most through line is about being a kid and is about not being old enough to do the things you want to do and yada yada. I think that's going to hurt the film overall in terms of it getting feet and keeping going.
Yeah, I think Tim brought up a really good point where it's everything in this is good, not great, but almost great. But there's just too many good elements to play with to make them great. There's too many characters in it. Actually, let me talk about the things that I liked about the movie first. I liked the relationship between Phoebe and her sort of first love, the ghost. I thought all of that was very interesting. I'm like, this is unique. This is cool. I'm feeling the dynamic.
Are we going into spoilers now?
Are we not? Are we not?
Just make sure.
I mean, you don't really wait for the plot, but
My apologies.
yeah.
I'll back up. I agree with you. There's too many characters in this, and it's unfortunate because everyone that's in this is good. Patton Oswalt is great in this. Kumail is great in this. Why do either of them need to be in this movie, right? Dan Aykroyd's great in this movie. How come we didn't have him doing more things? The two scientists that are in the movie, the blonde guy and Lucky.
Lars.
Why do we need them in this film, right? We have Phoebe, who is super smart, and we have Dan Aykroyd, who is now her surrogate father, so to speak, or not really surrogate father, I guess surrogate grandfather. Uncle, she calls him, Uncle Ray.
Call him Doctor.
Did she call him Doctor?
Yeah, Dr. Ray.
That's cool.
I liked him when he
that.
popped up only because he's a great comic, and I enjoy his comedy. But
But why
I
wasn't
totally
he?
agree with
Why
you.
wasn't he running the lab? Like, why wouldn't Ernie Hudson and the reality in the world of Ghostbusters be like, Ray, get out of the occult shop, come run this? Like, he'd be way more interested in running.
I think
this
the
lab.
overall, if I was a betting man on all of this, right, it's the idea that, well, we want the old guys to get the old people in, like my parents who like aren't Ghostbusters super fans but love Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd, right? And I think it's also future proofing of like, well, if this continues to be a franchise, with all due respect, these men are going to get too old to be in films or not want to do it or pass away. So it's got to be that idea that like, let's give everyone a counterpart, right? Like in this movie, Podcast is Ray's counterpart, right? I would say Lars is Winston's counterpoint to a degree of like, he'll be the one who like, if Winston doesn't want to do movies anymore, cool, I'm running this and I can do this. Not the business, but the Ghostbustery side of it.
Sure, but let's
It's
go
solving a
down
problem they don't have yet.
For the record,
let's
I'm not
just look at-
justifying this. I agree there's too many people in it.
Let's look
I
at
think
the
you could
top line
slim the
characters that they
cast.
have in this, right? I mean, I won't. I guess I'll count William Afton in there because he's kind of the foil. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 characters in this film that almost all get to a degree equal screen time. That's a lot of screen time in a movie, and half of these characters are interchangeable with the others because they're scientists or they run this thing or they do this thing. That my problem when I watched the trailer was I was like, please just let some of these characters get sprinkled in, and they weren't. They were just there, kind of taking up space.
Patton Oswalt really the only person, right, who pops up for a scene and then disappears.
Right, but didn't need to be in that scene
I
because
agree.
that was one of those scenes that you in the original movie we relied on Ray. We leaned on Ray for all the occult stuff. He
was
runs an
great,
occult
though.
shop. He should have known
it was
all
so
that
good.
stuff, right? Again, no disrespect to
just
Patton
too much
Oswalt.
good.
He's hilarious, and that scene was freaking funny, and it was great. And then Kumail is phenomenal in this. But part of me was hoping like, oh, he just drops off the ball and we're never going to see him again. Because realistically, like the person that should have been the person to solve the overall problem should not have been Ray. It should have been Phoebe. And Phoebe is the main character of this story. She is our Venkman. She is our person that is propelling the plot forward.
And she's great.
And she is great. And
McKenna
she
Grace is awesome.
but she should be the person figuring out the dynamic of how to beat the bad guy, right? Not necessarily the one thing that she did do, which was a big continuity error at the end of the movie, which is weird. But she should be the one who's like, hey, this is how you beat the bad guy. Bring all the elements together. I am the team leader, which would have then gone to back up sort of them not assuming she could do that because of her age, which was one of the subplots. But we don't get that. Instead, we get, well, we have this character. What are we going to use them for? And specifically, when like, I don't want to go into spoilers too much, but when we do go into spoilers, when we see like Venkman for the first time, it's like, okay, it's funny scene, but like that's how we're going to use him the first time, right? And then the other problem I have with it is that when you cut to the Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters, the ones who are left, right? We've seen this scene. This is not a spoiler. We've seen this scene in the trailer where Venkman comes in and he goes, "May I be of some service?" And he goes, "Melnitz in uniform. You look real sporty." They haven't lost a beat. So then you go, "Oh wait, we have this. We could have leaned on these guys more." I understand we're future proofing, but they are alive now, and they were alive when we were filming.
I'm not defending. I'm just reasoning.
So like, why wasn't like Peter Venkman is a car salesman? If he smells money, he would have been a part of this from the beginning, right? Why wasn't he running the lab? Why wasn't he out there like being the marketing person or working with Ernie Hudson? I don't know. These are all these questions that I have when you have 50 different characters that we don't spend a ton of time with. So that is the big criticism of the movie, and I really do feel like it suffers overall.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the plot so we can get into more spoiler territory and all of that. But right after, a word from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Shady Rays, an independent sunglasses brand that has over 300,000 5-star reviews. They are on a mission to match affordability with durability, making top quality shades accessible to everyone. They have tons of styles and colors to pick from, so finding the best polarized shades is a breeze. Get ready for a whole new level of clarity with Shady Rays Pro Polarized lenses. This lens tech is all about tough durability and vibrant colors that pop. Here at Kinda Funny, we all love wearing our Shady Rays. Whether it's Tim looking dope during his Pokemon Go walks, Snowbike Mike rocking the snow goggles, or Joey just looking fantastic in her tangle-free shades. If your shades go MIA or take a hit, don't sweat it. They've got lost and broken protection, so you're covered from day one. And if you don't love your shades, exchange or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Exclusively for y'all, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code KF20 for $20 off each pair of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Again, that is shadyrays.com and use code KF20 for $20 off each pair of polarized sunglasses.
This episode's brought to you by Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024 validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer.
I really hope this thing didn't die. There we go. Okay, we didn't die. Is this movie good? Is it a 4 out of 10? Time to hear the plot from Greg Miller. Can't spell ignorant without IGN.
Fuck them!
Time to hear the plot from Greg Miller.
IGN sucks. IGN
Oh my God.
sucks.
Say the truth. It's on the truth.
We're
Lower than Madam Web.
There are people in Madam Web that I don't think they know they were in that movie.
I think the big look, review scores aside, it's more of a crime that Madam Web was a 5 out of 10 than this being a 4
Clearly
out
a
of
2
10.
out
I
of
think.
clearly a 2.
It
One
would
or
be-
two.
It should be a 2.
One or
Having
a
said
two.
that, I enjoyed watching Madam Web more than I enjoyed this.
Because it's a
I
bad
enjoyed
movie,
Because
whatever. Yeah,
100%.
right.
Yeah, because of how bad it
Totally
was.
fair.
I enjoyed that, but I enjoyed this too. I do think that if we're going to judge these on scales, Madam Web would be a 2, and this would be a 6, debatably
6.
7.
I'd say
Thank you.
6.
If you
But,
would have
like,
asked
yeah.
me leaving the premiere, that's what I would have said too. What's IGN give us? Oh, 6, 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, fine. What did they give Afterlife? I don't remember.
I can check it.
Thank you for me. While you do that, I'll remind everybody. Some say the world will end in fire. Some
man.
say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire,
That's quote, by the
I
way.
hold with those who favor fire.
I didn't have
I
time
kind
to
of got
read
lost
it.
a little bit
But if
too.
it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction ice is also grace.
Who said
and
it?
would suffice. Robert Frost.
The road less traveled.
Yeah.
What's the rhyming like stanza
I don't
kind
fucking
of?
Robert Frost. Get
Because
outta
like
here.
I'm used to, I've heard of like ABAB or like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
ABAC
No
or
way. They gave it a 9
They
out
gave
of 10.
Afterlife a 9.
Yeah.
Different reviewers and everything else. I know.
Yeah,
Sure, but
Oh yeah, a very long poem that I didn't need. It talks about fire. It talks about ice. So I get it, but like I didn't need this. I was like, when I was reading it the first time, I was like, I'll be interested to come back to this at the end. Like when I've seen it once, I'm like, still didn't need it.
It's like
Still
the
didn't need
rhyme
it.
also comes in at a weird line. Like I'm like,
but it's,
It was
but it's-
distracting,
Like
for
it
sure.
started, and I was like, okay, I'm reading this. And then another line popped up. I was like, still going. And then by the fourth one, I was like, this is giving me like trauma from when I was in like lit in senior year of high school. And my buddy dropped out because he was. And I just started going through this whole narrative in my head. I was like, this is a lot, man. This is not the way to start a
Resident
fun
poet
movie.
Barrett Courtney.
I've looked up researched Robert Frost's writing style. While many modernists wrote in free verse, Frost utilized the more traditional iambic meter to create a more conversational tone.
I'll tell you what.
iambic pentameter.
Robert Frost, Bill Shakespeare. These guys,
Douchebags.
you know what I mean?
Fuck
They just decided to write when nobody else was writing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
could have gone back and
They
made a big
did a
fucking
thing.
deal. You know what I mean?
Get over yourself.
God bless you. Oh, you figure it out. People want to see people fuck on stage, Bill. Get out of here. Nobody cares. You
I
know
don't
what I
know
mean?
if that
It happens.
Oh,
10 Things I Hate About You did it better. I digress.
Yeah.
We
They bang
go
on the
from
bleachers.
this poem we all get lost in, right? And we're looking at the skies above New York City, and we pan down. We see the iconic firehouse, but something's amiss, isn't it? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You're time traveling. It's 1904. We're there long before any Ghostbusters were doing their thing. But once again, showing you the iconic firehouse is iconic no matter where.
I like this, man. Like, I
Me
think
too.
that the flashback thing of I was a little lost for a second, and then because I was like, damn, are they trying to imply that Ghostbusters have been around that long? I'm like, no, it's a firehouse. They're firemen.
Yeah.
And then when they pop out and they're like old school fire engine, I'm like,
yeah.
this okay, cool. I see what you're putting down. I'm into it.
When the horse and buggy goes out, there's a guy in the back going,
They're like, how long do you think Steve can keep that up this time?
So may we run some red lights?
Siren
You know what I mean? They tear out of the firehouse.
Snow
They
Mike
took in
Frank.
Ladder 8 on their way to the Manhattan Adventurer Society. We'll later find out these are just a bunch of douchebags who get drunk and stoned and do stupid shit. But when they arrive, they run upstairs where some smoke seems to be coming out of the door, but quickly retracts on its own. Oh, how peculiar. Lead firefighter goes up, puts his hand on the door, says it's ice cold. What the fuck? And then what happens? His hand starts to freeze and he gets it ripped away. He's like, ah! They chop down the door. They go in there and they find all of the Manhattan Adventurer Society, Liv Moss, frozen.
True
They're all
detective
frozen.
style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of weird cuts here. They break the 180 rule a lot, where it's like he's slashing down at the door,
yeah, it's
and
on
it
the
just
other
cuts, and we
side.
see the other side. It was just like it's a little jarring. For me.
Agreed with that 100%. What's the 180 rule? You have to spin.
Yeah, like mainly it's for when people are having dialogue, but like you need
know
to be
where people are
careful.
coming from.
Yeah, like because
Yeah, if you cut-
it's really jarring when
Totally,
you
you cut.
break
You
the
I've never heard that. That's
plane.
interesting. It makes sense though. I agreed it was a jarring thing. We bust in there. Everybody's frozen solid. The champagne's popping, but it's frozen solid. Everything's fucking frozen. It's cold. You get it, guys? They go to the front where there's a phonograph going, and it's one of those windy crank ones or whatever, and it's just going with the dude who got frozen, but his hand snapped off, so
That's
it's just
cool.
going.
First
thought
time
that
in the
was
movie,
cool.
I'm like, whoa,
That's
that's
cool.
they're going there. This is cool, but like that is not for kids.
Yeah.
Which like I get whatever. Like it's a weird thing of just like the first one wasn't either, and it's just like there are levels to it, and it's modern now.
Again,
but like,
I think that's gonna hurt it.
this did push the boundaries a little bit. Where I was like, I don't know if Annie's gonna be okay with this.
I've wondered that too.
I mean, I wasn't okay with the librarian when the librarian did the jump scare again. I'm like, I fucking hate this lady, man.
Yeah.
Librarian's great.
It's going around. It's playing a wax cylinder with some ancient language on it. We don't understand it. When they stop it, everybody when they go over to the woman on the
Shit
floor.
their pants. Is that what you're gonna say?
No, they shatter. They all shatter.
yeah.
But I think it's actually when they go to the woman, right? But they go to there's one person not frozen holding a ball that's like morphing around or whatever. They go over there. Her eyes snap awake, or when like I said, everybody smashes. Her eyes snap awake, and then we go into the ball and we see a smoky atmosphere, blah blah blah, and then the eyes of who will later be known as Garaka.
So I just want to say this, and this is a theme for me with how I feel about this movie. There's a lot that I really like here, and then there's like one thing at the end that I'm like, oh, that kind of lessens it all. Where I think the bad guys in this movie overall, and Kumail's character, that's kind of like a just side good guy superhero thing. Very cool, and I actually think might be my favorite of the villains of the movie so far, because like it's more consistent and more understandable of what's going on, and like it's really cool setups of like the lineage of it all and explaining like the magic of why this stuff's happening. I really dug that stuff. But then it's like, all right, cool, all this ice stuff's going on, and then she's in this weird little ball, or he, whatever, is in this little like ball, the thing. I'm like, we didn't need that element. Like it's just like you're adding too much to this story that like when we have the phonograph going and like all that, it's like that stuff's cool. You just are going way too. There's too many elements. There's too many props. There's too much for me to keep track of like what we're going
To
on.
make
And
a consistent through line, so later on when they show the wax cylinder, you're like, oh, that's a wax cylinder from before.
exactly. It's like, all right, cool, I get that, but like you could have just stayed there. There's just too many things going on.
Yeah, but I love the element. I love that ball element when it broke down. It just sounded cool and awesome.
This is a dumb, very superficial criticism, but the first two big action sequences we see in this, or like the first setup, they happen during the day, and I hate it. I just think busting should be it's like Batman. Busting and Batman always at night, never during the day.
I love it during the day. See, my main complaint that I'll start here, since this is all spoilers, obviously, and we're going through, is that this left me confused as to what happened in this room. Okay? So, like, this scene's cool, I think, and set up of what's going on, blah, 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 but to jump forward and then come back with all the knowledge we had. So, we play the phonograph. But later we're told it needs to be a human voice that lets them out.
Mm-hmm.
So the phonograph didn't let them out.
The phonograph let him out. Yeah.
in it. So,
But that's a human voice recorded onto a phonograph, so it has to be human. I don't think it could just be.
So, but they had podcasts record the phonograph later
Yes.
on, and that's when I was watching that happen. I was like, oh, the possessor ghost is going to then use that to play it when they get back. But then there's this thing, and then the wax things break, but they have it playing on. So that was why was the podcast even recording? That seemed confusing to me. Then to jump out of it, why was Grandma there? Did the Adventurer Society steal the ball and she came to interrupt? Did they pay her to
they
be
said
there?
that at some point Patton Oswalt drops the line where he's like, it turns out they were just douchebags who stole artifacts from people.
So she busted in the room and
Was just
feel
sitting
good.
there.
like and
very
fought him,
awkward.
and it's like I again, it's
assume she was
it's a
trying to
fucking
put-
Ghostbusters movie. We don't need to overthink everything.
Sure.
It's just like
But this is the
where I'm like,
closest to making sense they've ever been. And I just
exactly.
feel
So
like
it's
then
like there's a
they
little.
ruin it at the end.
I'm convoluted in terms of what happened here, right? Because even if she busts in to bust him at the end, like it looked like they flash froze, so she was just chilling with them while he came out. And if so,
You have to imagine she was like trying to fight him back because he's really powerful, and then she got him kind of contained as they were all coming in. I don't know.
I hear you. I'm just
Yeah,
saying
you know.
it's like one of those little
The-
things of on second watch.
I'll-
I'm just like at the end of it, me and Jen were debating the phonograph thing. I think a lot of things got cut in there to begin with in the movie overall. So there's whatever.
The Fire Master subplot is my least favorite thing in the movie, and it gives us Kumail, so that makes me happy because I
Yeah.
love watching Kumail Nanjiani on screen, and he's phenomenal in this. But anything that's not solved by a Ghostbuster in a movie called Ghostbusters, I think to me is to the detriment of the film. And at the end, he sort of is the superhero of this movie.
Sure.
He's the one that figures out that fire beats ice, which is not as I mean, that's what it is, right? Like Robert Frost tells us, it's worse than fire. Ice. I'd rather die by ice twice. Ice is nice, whatever, right? so
going to Christopher Walken there?
introducing this element and then having there be like a real life
Nice.
Fire Master, and I get it, right? Keymaster, Fire Master. We're sort of putting some nods toward the original series there, but that element was just super weird to me. And I'm the Ghostbusters should have figured this out.
Jump in, what I like about it, and aside from Kumail, who I think honestly stole the show for me, and like in the trailers, I was
Also,
very.
still jacked. What the fuck,
I know.
Kumail?
Give it up, Kumail.
Give it up.
But in the trailers, I had been very much like, oh, I think he shows up, tells the ball, goes away, kind of thing.
Like
And
Patton.
so when he came back, I was like, I don't know about this. And then when they said Fire Master, I was like, that seems a little on the nose for Keymaster. But then in the reveal of like, oh well, the Fire Masters were the Ghostbusters. And he was like the Ghostbusters. You know what I mean? Like he kind of is an ancient Ghostbuster, which I appreciate. But more than anything, I just appreciate expanding it because it's like. Ray's always on about supernatural and the sponge migration and all this shit, but all we ever deal with is ghosts. And so to be like, oh, there's also this Fire Master, like, oh man, what a magical spiritual world that does exist outside of just ghosts.
I feel that, and they have to do that, right? Like I'm a traditionalist. I don't want. I'm the worst kind of critic where I'm like, I want it to be exactly the same,
Yeah,
but just
yeah.
a little bit different.
I was happy with this edition.
But you can't.
I enjoyed it.
and I appreciate that. I just think that the way it sort of all came together at the end, like if it had been a character who was a Ghostbuster who had the lineage, I think that would have made me feel.
and
a little
that,
better
but
about
see,
that.
for me, that would have Skywalkered it.
You think so?
Of like every Ghostbuster's got to be special. They have to. If Finn was like, oh, I'm the Fire Master. Like,
I just think to myself, I'm like, well, because Phoebe's sitting there trying to figure out how to make the proton packs, which is the main weapon of a Ghostbuster, like a lightsaber, actually effective against this bad guy, and she sort of does. But I'm like, why don't she just make a flamethrower? Make a Ghostbuster. We had the goo thrower in
Yeah, yeah.
Ghostbusters too. Why
had
did
it
we
in this
figure out
one
how to
too?
make a flamethrower? Everyone gets flamethrowers, but
Yeah, we'll get to the end.
Okay.
Of a lot of just like how Lucky's like, our proton packs don't work. And then everybody's like, shut the fuck up. New proton packs. I'm
Right.
like, it's the same problem. Say something, Lucky. Say something.
I also don't think that like I think there was an element of like the Fire Master. I think there's an element of the Fire Master, like him being involved means that this isn't just like a normal fire. I know it like came from a normal match or something, but I don't think normal fires would have stopped this. Like in a similar way to where
he would have snuffed it out. He snuffs out the match, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, and in a similar way where he stops
Or
where Kumail's able to control the neutrino wand,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
like
Your
blast or
proton
whatever.
blast, yeah.
Like I think that there's something more special there going on. So I don't think they could have just flamethrowered him. I think they had to include the element of like brass into the proton pack because brass is like fire or whatever.
brass,
Well,
which they cut out of the pole, which he slides down one scene later.
Oh, but there's two poles though.
Are there two poles?
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Oh,
I'm not-
There's even too many fucking poles in this movie.
Hey, I'm not even trying to be a dick about it. No, like, there's the one
yeah,
from
but
the
that's just not, that's
third.
not
I
good
know.
editing though. Like that's
Sure.
like because it's distracting. Like if
I
you
was like,
Dude,
bring
if
that
you
one
want to
inside,
go,
that's
if we want to get into
hilarious.
that weeds of it, and I don't fully Like I'm Mr. Ghostbusters, and
You
I've
are
seen
Mr.
it twice.
Ghostbusters, hello.
It stood out to me the first time, and I didn't think fast enough to make sure I got it here. When Paul Rudd comes down to save Finn, I'm pretty sure those stairs he's on are the second to one floor, and they're on floors 2 and coming down 3. It's like, but again, I need to see it. I'm not, Gail, if you're watching, I'm not shitting on you.
I'm just realizing right now that Lucky in this movie, she's also
part
Madam
one.
Web.
Oh wait. Oh shit.
She's the third girl.
Oh wow.
She's the space between spaces.
I liked her a lot more in that movie than I did in this one because they gave her nothing to do in this film.
100%.
Zero.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, I have an internship here. I don't
She
know.
gave her a cool ass jacket though.
That fucking
The gear jacket.
that red jacket is fucking everything.
I'm talking about the black one.
Oh,
The
I thought
black with
I
the
like
red
the
gear.
Oh, I didn't see that one. I like the one at the end where she's like, it's like the cold jacket.
Yeah.
That thing
we
is
all love that
nasty. I
jacket.
want one of those so bad.
You and me can order them right now. Company money. Let's do it.
Outvoted.
But
Tim.
I
Let's
have-
outvote Tim.
I voted Tim. Tim, we need it for next Ghostbusters
Yeah,
interview.
just get the other one. Everyone go see Ghostbusters.
It'll just be
Frozen Empire.
$600, $700. It'll be fine. No big deal.
Just casual.
No, that's. I did the math.
I want the
That's-
real one. I want the one that's
Tim,
like.
it's gonna be $2,000.
I want the Canada Goose one. That's like
And there's
$1,500.
Ghostbusters math. All right, we're not. Me and him aren't spending $2,000 on jackets. Just $600. That's basically free.
Think about it.
Shit. It's a good
In
point.
fact, you owe us money.
The assholes. Let's jump back to present day New York, ladies and gentlemen. The Ecto One is rip roaring through the streets.
The guy.
Siren Steve.
I thought today was Steve's day off.
They're chasing the Chinatown subway ghost through the dragon through the streets of New York, Manhattan, or whatever. And they're out there, and again, it's more the comedy happening inside of the car, right? As Finn wants to be Finn Wolfhard, of course. Trevor wants to be taken serious as an adult. The car, it's very hot. That's driven home for us. We're getting to see the family spend time together there, though. You know what I mean?
And there's some great. Again, it just feels so imbalanced because like I am not a fan of when Phoebe's like, "Oh, I can do the chair thing," and Paul Rudd's like, "Don't do it," and he's like, "That was pretty cool though." Like,
I love that.
I did not find that little line delivery funny, but I really enjoyed Finn Wolfhard hurting his hand and his mom going, "You're okay," and he goes, "Oh, it's okay. I'm fine."
Mom
yeah,
said I'm okay. Yeah.
Like there's funny moments like that hit well and like are just super quick and. You don't have to, it's not meant to be a big laugh moment, but then there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't.
See,
hit for
I
me.
like that, and I like I didn't like the delivery necessarily. Like, I got a ghost to catch, and she spins out, but then Paul Rudd going like, "That was cool." Like I gotta admit, that was cool.
It. I like it
like
because
that.
I feel like it built character. The whole
The
motivation
dynamic.
between their dynamic of him wanting her to like him and all that stuff, and like see her as dad and all that,
Yeah.
which gets really lost because there's so much going on. But it is a good thing there.
I do. I agree.
I also think this entire scene, it's exactly what you would expect for a 2024 movie of like, we need the big action scene in the beginning, but it's a fucking cartoon. This worked for me. I don't think every moment was like the most hype or the best or whatever, but I feel like overall this scene did what it needed to do. And I was like, this is a Ghostbusters sequel. Cool.
My only criticism here is I think it might go on a little long. I feel like we spun the Ecto One a few times in the streets too many and hit trash cans and do whatever.
I
and
don't know
almost
if
got into
the
near
one
accidents.
is never not drifting.
That is a good point. Ever since that Aftermath trailer or whatever it was called, Afterlife trailer, where we see it
can
drifting
only
around, it's
drift.
like that's how it moves now.
People loved it. Do it over and
It's
over.
just
and over.
always.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that one. Again, and my other criticisms, I wish it was happening at night. It's just so much more exciting for car chases and blasts and all that stuff to be happening at night. This stuff happening in broad daylight is just like kind of lessens it for me. But I do think by the end, when we get to the end of it, I was ready for this scene to be over about 5 minutes ago. And also, unfortunately, the coolest part of the scene, which was the drone trap, was spoiled in the trailer.
Yeah.
It sucks.
You know how it always is that
I
way.
know. That's a bummer because that was a cool moment.
But again, it's a reestablishment of the characters. Here we are. They're the Ghostbusters. The Spengler family plus the Gruberson is here. We'll just call them the Spenglers here from I don't know though. Yeah, we get Phoebe telling the joke, doing the wink, all that jazz. The gunner seat, blah blah blah. They eventually, try to trap the ghost with the RC car you know and love. It's out of range. Then Mom takes over with the drone, which would have been a cool reveal, but it's not. It flies up there, catches it. Of course, they zap through a building. They take out a bunch of signs, and then after trapping the ghost, Paul Rudd loses control of the Ecto One, smashes through some rent-the-bikes and parks it, whereas the little drone comes in and collapses.
It's no disrespect to the hardworking engineers, the Ghost Corps,
Yeah.
that designed the RC car trap.
Yeah.
But it just feels like the drone trap is the trap you should be using.
Every
for
time.
that.
Why would I ever run
Why
the
would
drone?
you need that
Why would I
RC?
have this drone? Why would I have this RC trap that could get run over and smushed at any
Hey,
point?
we're chasing a flying dragon. Should we use the
Do we
remote
need
control
the remote
car
control
or the
car?
flying drone?
Or the flying drone.
It's experimental. Anyways, they crash there, and then we get the pan out shot of Ecto One among all the bikes, and cut to a news report. Of course, bringing up that the Ghostbusters ran ruckshot through Manhattan today, caused a whole bunch of destruction. Interview a person who's like, I'm surprised no one had died. You're like, yeah, 100%. Very true. You know,
It is funny, and like it's not so much a criticism, it's just an observation. Like I feel like this newscast situation that we saw, like cutting between the TV stuff, have we seen this exact thing like 5 times before? Like of them going through like, and there's the cereal, and there's the this, and like here's the original Ghostbusters walking through New York. It's like it literally just felt like I had such deja vu watching
In
this
Ghostbusters?
scene. Yeah,
I mean,
like,
those are
I feel like
scenes from the other
Ghostbusters 2
Ghostbusters.
and like and
We saw the commercial, which we've seen.
You've seen
we
the
saw them
commercial,
dancing,
yeah.
which you've seen. We
this
saw the
just felt
music video, which
very,
we've seen.
I don't even want to say
The music
derivative.
video's not in
I'm
the
like,
movies, though.
I feel like I've
No, but
seen
we've
this
seen
before.
it. It's like it's existing property that they just
yeah,
took
but
and-
Tim is saying he's seen it in movies. That's what
Oh,
we're
I
arguing
see, I'm
about right
sorry.
now. Not if you've seen the
I agree
content.
with Tim. It felt like, hey, in case they missed that joke last time, let's do it again.
100%,
sort of
yeah.
thing.
It's not. It's new. I liked it because of that. I thought it was cool to
I mean,
see.
I've definitely seen the Bill Murray and them walking being shown on TV in some other movie.
You have
in
not
Ghost-
seen it in Ghostbusters.
You saw news reports of them doing stuff in Ghostbusters with Casey Kasem sort of narrating that, where he's like, they stayed.
There's a
danced the night
montage in
away.
1 and 2 of
Yeah.
them doing Ghostbustery things. It's not this footage.
But the footage-
the
yes.
footage of them dancing is from the Ghostbusters music video
Right.
with Ray Parker
Which-
Jr. That is
yeah,
very popular.
I'm sure
but never
you've
in the movie.
seen before, but yeah, that was
Yeah,
never
yeah,
used
yeah.
in canon. In those
Gotcha,
lyrics.
gotcha. I'm not necessarily saying the exact shots. I'm just saying like the.
Oh no, that vibe was Ghostbusters 1. Yes, 100%. There's a moment where she's watching TV, talking to her mom, and she's watching the commercials or watching them blow up. You see the magazines and all that stuff. And so yeah, you've seen it before. This is a
Well, yeah,
this
you've
is
seen a montage of the Ghostbusters before.
Like
Yeah.
the joke attempt. I
Yeah,
think is what
exactly.
yeah.
yeah. Like, the way that they
Mom.
show the montage, the use of the montage, just feels like I've seen this before. Like we didn't need this again.
Well,
In
you have
the-
to
in
you have
the
to
other
imagine
universe.
like there's a lot of people coming to this movie that probably have never seen Ghostbusters 1 and 2. So you're building, it's just universe building in at that point, right? Like most, let's be honest, and it pains me to say, but like most people Roger's age or below probably don't have really a touchstone for Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Hal Ramis, or Ernie Hudson. Like they don't understand these people, so you have to have this element in there to a degree. And for idiots like me and him, I was like, yeah, it's the music video they put in there.
Well, that's fun because it actually doubles back to something I think we talked about in ours, right? Where you talked about, oh man, like you know, you didn't like in Ghostbusters 2 that the song was in the universe.
Sure.
And I was like, it makes. I think it was in our watch along, and I was like, I kind of like it because they would sell out and do that. And somebody in the chat was like, in universe, it would make sense for them to be in the music video. And so then for them to give us this movie and show that, yeah, in universe, the Ghostbusters
that
were
works
such
for
a
me.
pop culture phenomenon that, yeah, they were in the music
Yeah.
video for their song, let alone the cereal I had and the toys I had also were existing in that universe. Now, of course, they also show they haven't had a debacle like this since the 89 Statue of Liberty incident. And here's where, if you want to be an asshole,
I want to be an asshole.
Get
I
into
wanna
it.
get into
This is where, again, you start working against Afterlife. So it's like,
Yes.
all right, confirmed the Ghostbusters were at least running through 1991, I'll say.
Right.
Because they talk about Dan Aykroyd in Afterlife's like business was booming. We did all these things, the Reagan years, which also no longer makes sense. But then, of course, yeah, you know, we did too good of a job. It went from one call to 10 calls a week to one call a week. So it's like 89. I'm gonna say business boomed through the 1990, then into 1991 it dies, and then no ghosts.
Right.
Okay. So then we get to Afterlife, where you have a kid named Podcast who's obsessed with the occult, never heard about the Statue of Liberty coming to life with slime guns
Yeah.
and fighting Vigo. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't get me wrong, I can fucking forget it. It's a cartoon, whatever. But it's like, this is where you're like,
that was
right.
a big criticism I had of Afterlife, and this one kind of retcons that. a
Yeah,
little bit.
exactly. So it's like, on the one hand, it's nice to see them acknowledge Ghostbusters 2 is real, it is canon. On the other hand, you're like, well, your timeline suddenly makes even less sense. But who gives a shit? What I want to give a shout out to is that this news report felt like a news report. It drives me crazy when movies do the news reports, and you're watching like, this clearly is not. This is how a movie studio would shoot a news thing.
Yeah.
This
Oh,
felt
you
like I
like
was
it
actually watching the
shot
New
on the
York
actual
news doing
cameras,
the
yeah.
thing. I was like, I like that or whatever. But it establishes, of course, that they've been back. They moved back to the firehouse. It's been 2 years. Harold Ramis era, Egon's kids, blah, 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 blah. The Ghostbusters are back. A lot of damage. Then we jump from there to the mayor's office, where the mayor is now Walter Peck.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love this element. Yeah, it makes sense to me in world that an
Yeah.
asshole like that would climb the heights of mayor of New York.
It's the normal thing where I don't necessarily need it. And on paper, I kind of go, ooh, is that going to work? But when he spun around in the chair, I was like, I like this. And I like that we had another Ghostbuster nut fan like me, 4 seats away
Andy.
from us, he had bought his own
Losing
Slimer
his
bucket.
mind.
He was this is not a filled theater
No.
at 2:00 on a Thursday.
Yeah.
And
Five
he's
people
clapping and he's into and
for
somehow,
him.
even though he's a Ghostbusters fan, he never watched the trailers because everything you knew from a trailer that you popped in a trailer for, he was like, "Wow!"
But like it sounded legit. It sounded like he actually
was
didn't
in
know. Like he was on media blackout. And I was like, good for you,
Love
man.
that,
Enjoy
dude.
it.
Enjoy it. Yeah. But I enjoy it. And Walter Peck spins around, and of course, he is the mayor of New York now, and he is once again out to make sure the Ghostbusters no longer exist. He lays out all the stuff, the damage, the bikes, this, that, and the other, right? And he's like, blah, blah. But then, I really did appreciate when he's like, how old are you? And Finn's like, I'm 18. I'm like, not you, the girl. I'm talking to the girl. Phoebe admits she's 15, of course. Oh, we can add,
May I approach a bench?
Yeah. Did you see a robe? I'm not a judge. You can do whatever.
I like him in this because I think he kind of grounds it a little bit. And let's be perfectly honest, he's bringing up some good points.
100%.
And that's what you love about William Atherton. Remember in the original one, he's the
EPA.
He's the EPA.
He's trying to save
And
everyone.
he's like, you guys are playing with nuclear proton accelerators, or whatever. This is not safe, and it's not safe. We've seen it, so
Yeah.
I like it. And I think he's actually I think they subdued him a little bit in this.
100%.
He wasn't.
He wasn't evil. Twirl
Right.
your mustache kind of thing.
The
Yeah.
ego wasn't. Well, in the original, William Atherton, of course, renowned for playing this character in multiple movies, right? Die Hard, you've got him in that. You've got him in Ghostbusters. You've got him in Real Genius. He's the same character, right? He's always an egotistical prick. And in this one, they toned it down just a little bit because they're like, all right, let's just have him be sort of like the counterpart to that struggle between the family of why Phoebe shouldn't probably be allowed to be, doing this job at 15 years old. Or should she? I don't know. But it's interesting to have him as the foil for that. And I think he did a good job.
Back to like, is he? I mean, he's an antagonist in this, but I didn't think he was like. When
They didn't seem like there was ulterior
he's
motives.
the mayor at jump one. I was expecting like the Ghostbusters are being shut down. You know what I mean? Rather than just don't have the fucking 15-year-old do it. And I'm gonna catch you guys doing more bad shit. I'm like, oh, that's reasonable.
Yeah.
You did just fucking put a laser through a building.
You can't employ her. Oh, we don't pay her.
Oh, we can add child labor laws or whatever it is
Great.
to
Great
the list of
moment right
charges,
there.
right?
But again,
Yeah.
I lean over to Greg and I'm like, I could work when I was 15. What's going on with New York? Why do they have these shit laws? Get her a work permit and pay her.
I think they changed a lot of that, but that was like in the 30s, Nick.
Okay.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, they
I had little hands. I could build those machine parts.
you were in the mines.
I got the black lung pop.
Did you ever see that?
But it's mine
tweet?
for one day.
It was a meme that goes around that I love so much where it's like, and I'm going to fuck it all up, but it was like, in 1904, we outlawed children being able to work in coal mines. In 2014, the world's biggest game is Minecraft. The children long for the mines. They need it.
Children long for the minds is so
That's really funny.
Anyways, yeah, all this is established, right? Of like, they suck or whatever, blah, blah, and like she can't be a Ghostbuster because of it. They leave. Phoebe doesn't take it well, obviously, and we get to go to the firehouse. Now we're in the firehouse. We're walking around, right? And this is my scene of, what life in the firehouse is like, right? Callie Spangler, Carrie Coon, comes into Trevor's room. He complains about goo leaking from the ceiling leaking. Sounds like a job for an 18-year-old man or whatever. She leaves. She goes into Phoebe's room, confiscates the jumpsuit. Phoebe argues. They argue all the way downstairs, down the poles. It's taco night. He's got Cannibal Girls, which is an Ivan Reitman film.
Oh,
I think
cool.
maybe his first, am I correct? We go all the way down into the laundry room though. They load up the laundry. They're talking there.
Love this scene.
Yeah.
And again, to your earlier point, like being in the firehouse, really feeling this. This is really the first movie where we feel like we understand the geometry of the firehouse. Because even in the first one, I didn't know there was 3 stories.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a whole middle story. And we see the top, we see the bottom. I really feel like they existed in this, and the firehouse for the first time kind of became a character, which I like a lot.
That's why it was codenamed Firehouse, right? I think they knew that. That
makes sense. And I love that and I didn't catch this from the trailer, but I love that the climax happens in the firehouse as well. It's sort of
100%.
like barricading them in, which I thought was cool.
Yeah. However, we eventually get down there, right? And it is that, no, Phoebe, you can't be a Ghostbuster or whatever, right? And so she shoots off at the mouth with her, right? Or with the family or whatever. She leaves. Paul Rudd's like, or Carrie to him is like, I could use some backup there. And he's very much like, I don't know what my role is.
Yeah.
Am I stepdad? Am I whatever?
I feel like, though, I feel like Phoebe needed to screw up a lot bigger to incur this sort of punishment. Am I wrong in thinking that, right? Like, I feel like when he's like, you can't be a Ghostbuster, it should have been because she did blast out that window in the diner, or she did hurt someone, or something happened. Something happened that she was callous and then had to learn from that. But in this, there's no difference really between what she's doing and what Finn Wolfhard's doing, right? Neither of them should be Ghostbusters, right? Let's be perfectly honest. Like, this is like, I mean, she should be in regards to like she's capable and competent, but like these are kids.
No, but it's
they should
the
be running
age
around
thing.
with guns. This is like, that'd be like, should a 15-year-old or an 18-year-old go fight a war? I mean, in my opinion, probably not, right? They're still too young to be able to be doing that.
I think it's just the age thing. It's the legality thing. Wasn't that just like the whole catalyst for all of it? For the mayor being like, she's underage. She can't do this.
I just mean
we don't let kids be cops or firefighters around.
I just mean for them to go, you can no longer be a part of this at all. It seemed very, very, very harsh. As opposed to being like, yeah, we'll still need you, but you'll go over to be do the science portion of this until you're 18. You can actually go fight the war.
I agree that there should have been. Again, this is where the movie, I think, has so much going on it that they don't have time to do that. I think that is an undercooked thing. I mean, it should have been well, stay here, work on the packs, answer the phones. I'm not that. I'm a Ghostbuster. At the very end, or not at the very end, in the middle, right? There's this is my birthright. You know what I mean? This is what I'm supposed to do.
But I just feel like for the character, right, the ghost busting portion of it that she would do, to me doesn't seem organic to have her be like, I want to get out there on the front line with the proton pack and start and blast. She's always, I mean, she's Harold Ramis for all intents and purposes. She's not looking for the action. She's more interested in the actual like science and backing up and catching them and all that stuff. And then we have this whole other group that's introduced to her that's like, oh, that's your interest? Like, you can't do the busting anymore?
I feel like
come over here.
I feel like you're projecting that on her. I think the movie establishes she wants to be out there busting ghosts. That is what she wants to do, even if she's got skills at the other thing.
Right. I'm saying from a story standpoint, from a motivational standpoint, it would have been stronger if there was a reason why they had to limit her that, other than just being like, she's 15 years old.
Well, I think the reason is we don't want the Ghostbusters. I understood the reason as we don't want the Ghostbusters to be shut down. The mayor's looking at us. You can't be a Ghostbuster.
Fair. But again, 16, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the legal age you can work anywhere in the United States of America, right?
Yeah, but
they're like, you got to wait till you're 18. Why?
But they just threw out the law. Like it's just the law. Like I know,
but for me as I know I'm getting caught
that's all I needed.
No. I agree with you, Nick.
It's just dumb, right? They're like, you got to wait 3 years. I'm like, why? Well, she can do other shit, right? There's no reason why. Like, yes, if you're you're working in a restaurant, you can't be a bartender until you're 21 years old. But I worked in a restaurant when I was 18.
I feel like it's like getting caught in the nuance of the law
It's
and
very
stuff.
nitpicky.
It's more just like the dynamic between the family and her. It's like I feel like they just handled it incorrectly, where it's like just have some other thing going on than, oh, just be a normal girl for a while. Like that just
She's not a normal
like,
girl.
We don't need to have that conversation.
That's so stupid and so counterintuitive for like a mom who knows her daughter very well to be like, just go out there and get in this trouble. She doesn't want to fucking do that. She doesn't want to do that. It's dumb. Anyway, sorry.
No problem. We missed the first one here where it's like choose your next words carefully or whatever. Or they cut right as she's about to curse or whatever, and then it was downstairs where I didn't think she knew most of those words. You should be a father or not father or whatever kind of thing. Feel it out. You're like, okay, I can be mean. And he does the thing where he yells at her a little bit and then throws the jumpsuit on the ground and picks the jumpsuit back up. I like that. Paul Rudd's so charming.
Paul Rudd's so damn good, and the dynamic between the like what is he to her, I thought was such a core to this movie that for the most part they did really well. I just wish they cut a lot of other stuff so they could have done more with it.
Yeah. Then here we are while we're in there, right? This is where we load up the trap from the ghost. I think it's the Hell's Kitchen. Somebody in the chat over there corrected me. Hell's Kitchen dragon. Yeah. Subway dragon. Sewer dragon. We put it in there in the containment unit. She starts making noise, right? She's getting kind of full, it turns out. We don't know that, but they have to pull really hard on the thing to get it down. And even then, there's some shenanigans. And they say, well, we'll call over Winston's people at some point and have them figure it out and look at it or whatever. From there, we're into the business of ghost bustings, right? I imagine at this point we jumped over to Ray's occult shop. Is that right?
Yeah, this is where he's selling all the items, and this is where
right.
comes
You're
in.
right. You're not even there yet.
We
It's
got
where
podcast.
Podcast and him are doing the thing. God,
Now I'm gonna tell you.
you want to talk about puberty? When Podcast showed up the first time, I was like, holy shit, this has been a long time since Afterlife got filmed. Huh?
That's hella funny.
I love podcasts. I love this character. I wanted more of him. I like the relationship he has with Phoebe. And again, this is one of those, if you could have pared back some of the characters, I think he could have filled a lot of these roles in, because he is the audience. He is the one who's like, I don't know what the fuck's going on, but we're here to figure it out. Yeah. And it's always nice to have that character along for the ride.
I don't think the movie fully got going for me until Podcast and Dan Aykroyd are with Kumail teaching about the fire. Like that moment is where I was. We'll get to that later, but
No, for me,
that's where I started really, really enjoying.
For me,
it.
it's when he smashes the old woman's husband's
Yeah,
watch.
yeah.
He's like, the hammer gets views.
Well, that was the thing where it's like, so we get there and we establish they're filming YouTube. He does the whole like
I like
subscribe,
this.
and share, which is funny. And then the PKE reader gets nothing. Then they smash the watch and it gets views. And then there's this long line of people, and it was like the smashing is what made it work. Let alone that we eventually get to the fact that this isn't just bullshitting. It is something that they're doing for Ghostbuster research, which I appreciate. However, they smash it. They do the thing. We then cut to they're cleaning up the shop while Ray reads a book. Phoebe comes over with the jar of mood slime for research purposes. Ray's like, go put it downstairs. Podcast leads are down there. He's staying there. Again, let's explain why Podcast from Oklahoma is in New York City. He's there because he told his parents he's going to space camp, but isn't actually here.
And he's got the recording,
So good.
which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
hilarious.
5, 4.
Yeah, very, very funny.
This is where we reveal there are mini puffs down there
I
as well.
don't like these elements.
man.
I know why they're here. The kids love them. They
Sell
sell
some
them.
stuff.
But this to me is like,
Do they though? Like, or do just old people think the kids love them? Because I really struggle.
You ain't seeing the kids out there with their mini puffs?
I just don't know, man. Like, it just feels like the whole like, hey, you remember this? It's back again. Like, I feel like these movies, so much of what they do is that, and they do it well. Then there's just things like the mini puffs where I'm like, I don't know that anybody that likes Ghostbusters is like, oh, I love them. Am I wrong?
I mean, I don't love them, no, by any stretch of the imagination. I think the mid-credit scene should have not even made it the film. I don't know what the fuck it's doing there. But there are people who like them. The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man is iconic, so I understand they want to do that. For me, the egregious thing is hey, we got the fucking mid-credit scene. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? They're here.
Well, the mid-credit scene is just like, if there's another movie, the Marshmallow Man's back.
The problem I had,
Great.
I had no problem here because their device is just to show how scared other ghosts are of Gravelic. No, not Gravelic. Jesus, Baraka Garaka.
Good Dormammu.
I always have to think of Mortal Kombat Baraka. Put a G on it.
There we go.
Garaka. Garaka. Right. That's why they're there. But they're also there, yes, to sell shit and continue to be used because they're iconic or whatever. Right. You know, you go watch me watching every Ghostbusters movie and doing the commentary over it. At the very end of Afterlife, when they show the logo that was the mini puff in it, Mike pops so hard. Oh, that's an awesome logo. Oh my God. So there you go. Like, you know what I mean?
Got Mike,
Consumers
everybody.
love
There's
it.
idiots out there.
Point against it.
Anyways, they're down there. Everything that happened. We see the mini puffs. Podcast thinks they're breeding or whatever. Ha ha ha. Mating. Then we cut back up top to Ray's occult shop. In comes Kumail. He's got a bunch of his grandma's shit in a box or whatever.
Fucking love. He's like $40.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
as
Oh,
Dan
this is very
Aykroyd, Steve
interesting.
Saw, he's like $50.
Smells great.
He's great.
Kumail's amazing, and I think he just fucking eats this part alive. So good. But anyways, they go through the entire box, yada yada yada, and eventually, whoa, this is a very interesting piece, ancient whatever written on it, and then even Kumail's like trying to parrot back what Dan's saying or whatever, and it's like, this mess of my service. You know what I mean? Just like can't get through it or whatever. Do you mind if I do a PKE reading on it? He's like, oh yeah, most people don't even ask. Most places don't even ask.
And he's like, thank you so much for asking. Most people don't do that.
Awesome.
Busts it out, does
Great
the
idea.
reading, which of
Great
course we've
line.
already seen from the watch bit where I got nothing. It immediately overloads, starts vibrating, zapping, smoke, and everything else. Right?
Cool scene.
Yeah, very cool. I think.
Drops through the glass.
Yep. Everything. And again, like I said, the mini puffs ran downstairs when when Kumail walked in with it. Right? Yeah. Breaks through the glass, shakes the entire building. Then from there, right?
Did it create cracks in the ground at this point? or was
This
that
is
later
where
on?
the ice shoots from Ray's occult down the streets of New York to the containment unit downstairs and smashes the wall. Ray's like, yeah, I'll take it, and I'll take the lot. And Kumail grabs it. I don't have change and runs out. Then he gets to the corner and has this moment, which I think is a little out of character, even on second viewing, of
Right.
like debating if he did the right thing. I assume is what his
yeah,
character's
I think
doing
they
here.
want him to
But
do that.
all they're really doing is showing behind the fire, like wig out as he wigs out a bit, which is a nice touch for a second rewatch or whatever. Or now that you
Yeah,
haven't
I
watched
didn't
them.
even catch
I didn't
that.
catch that.
Yeah.
I thought it was very weird.
When it happened initially, I thought, obviously, when the first viewing, I thought it was something going on with the ghosts, but then I realized, obviously, by the
His
end of the
emotions
movie,
are
he's
tied to
gonna,
that, yeah.
he takes off.
I thought it was just showing like, hey, it fucked up that guy's little stove. The street. What was street meat seller? What was he? What was he
hot
selling
dogs.
there?
Who sells hot dogs? Yeah.
You ever had one of those? Them dirty hot dogs.
Yeah, sure, of course I have.
Dirty water hot dogs.
Yeah.
Danger dogs.
I'm
I
not
ain't
even
afraid.
super into hot dogs, but I feel like
They turn you on.
they just look so appetizing. You know what I mean?
fucking good.
Yeah.
And as Nick would say, the squeegees.
Oh my god! Last night
Oh,
I had two hot. I tried to pull a Tim Geddes. I was like, I'm not gonna eat lunch. I'm just gonna have two hot dogs when I get in the movie theater. 3/4 of the way through the second hot dog, I was like, oh, this is bad. And I felt so sick all last night. The popcorn didn't help.
So now that we've got the ball introduced, that's great. Congratulations. We go back to the firehouse. We are going to. I'm actually a little foggy on this, so I'm going to put them together. Please, ladies and gentlemen, I've only seen it twice. Don't yell at me, all right? Remember, Annie Potts initially comes to see the containment unit when it's first damaged and maybe when it's first full. And this is where Gary introduces the idea, wait, you've been putting ghosts in here for 40 years and you haven't done anything about it or whatever? She's like, I'll have Winston's people come look at it. And he's like, what do they do over there? You know what I mean? Are they doing secret Ghostbuster stuff? Yeah, that's right, Gary. Secret Ghostbuster stuff. They walk up.
Which is a weird thing to me.
Very.
Because why?
Why is there the separation between
Why would-
the active Ghostbusters and then
the people
Ghost Corps?
using the tech,
Yeah,
the people
yeah.
on the front lines?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's done solely for the sake of having there be some mystery, so we get a reveal here. Which, granted, it was a cool reveal. They took over this aquarium, and I'm
Yeah.
like, that's cool. Love the patches, love all this stuff. But odd that they don't have a relationship with these people.
Agreed, 100%. Yeah.
And
Too
odd
much,
that
man.
they don't, that there's sort of a weird antagonistic relationship between the Ghostbusters and what do they call it? The Ghost Scientists, Ghost Corps?
They call it.
Ghost something.
Ghost Corps is who actually makes the movie. They
Right.
call it this research division or some shit. I forget what it
It's
is.
just weird because it's very cool. Like they look cool and what they're doing is cool and like the explanations. I'm like, this all makes sense.
But then in canon, right, in the world, you're like, okay, they've clearly understood that this containment issue is a problem. We have 4 brand new ones here. It would make sense to me to be like, hey guys, that's so full. We should just probably tell the Ghostbusters to come drop the shit off here from now on, right?
Stop putting ghosts
Stop
in
putting
that
ghosts
containment
in the one
unit.
that's cracking.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kinda weird.
100%. I'm with you. There's a lot of stuff there, but anyways, and then so I'm just putting them together, right? Then what happens is Lars, the Egon-looking dude in the black jumpsuit that I fucking can't wait to make or buy. He comes over and he does the readings on it, right? And he's figuring out.
You
what's
can't
going
wait to what?
buy.
Oh,
Greg has to
God.
have the new black jumpsuit.
I gotta have
Yes,
that black
yeah,
jumpsuit.
okay.
You know that.
It's
Got
pretty
it.
badass. We're gonna need another $600.
And then it's gonna be the thing. Listen, Tim, you cut me and Nick a check for $2,000. We'll have some great suits here.
We're
for you,
out
all
of
right?
out of your hair for the next month.
Yeah, great. What a steal.
They come over, they're scanning it and doing all the reads. And it's, does that help you listen for ghosts? What helps me listen for ghosts is when people stop talking to me. You know what I mean?
I love his deadpan delivery. I don't think he was super useful in this movie,
No.
but he had a couple decent lines that I'm like, I'm happy you're here.
I want to make sure I get it all straight. So, yeah, that actually hadn't happened yet. It's the Annie Potts scene here. I apologize. But anyways, we're back in the firehouse now. I think maybe this is when we go and see Slimer, ladies and gentlemen. So now
There's so much in this fucking movie.
why?
the slime is dripping through the ceiling. Finn Wolfhard gets up and just fingers the shit out of the
Ugh,
ceiling.
God.
What the
In no
fuck,
universe.
dude?
He's an 18-year-old.
As a homeowner, I'm
He's
not
an
putting my finger in
18-year-old.
any
Nick's
gooey
right.
hole in my house.
18-year-old
I'll tell you
boys
he's
put their
right.
fingers in other things and whatever they can put them into.
He comes down to complain to his
This
mom,
movie has a
who's on the
sexualness
phone,
to it.
who's on her phone, just fucking flipping through whatever. And she's like, "You're an adult now, right? You can take care of it." He's like, "Yeah, I can." He gets the ghost trap and stumbles on the stairs, which I appreciated, and then goes up there. Has his proton pack, goes in there, and then kicks things around. And who comes out? Of course, Slimer, yellow eyes and all, pops up, uses the same rah noise from Ghostbusters 1, slimes him, shoots out the thing. He does the spit. Okay.
Very cartoony. Like this feels like the subplot of a cartoon, and it's like I appreciate it for that. I just think that the movie's tone didn't work with it.
It felt like
This
a
is-
deleted scene.
This
Yeah.
is definitely one of those that you go, if this wasn't obviously Slimer, you'd be like, cut, let's cut this scene out. We don't need it. It doesn't serve any
But
purpose.
since it's Slimer, I really like it, and I like it how it pays off with the pizza at the end.
I like how it's shot too. It's an entertaining scene. I just think it's one of those where it's just kind of indicative of Finn Wolfhard in general in this movie. He just didn't need
And
to
I
be
mean,
in
to
this at
say
all.
that for Trevor's character, I feel is the same thing to say for Afterlife, where I really feel that he's not used well in Afterlife, right? He gets the car fixed up.
Right.
He goes to the mountain with Lucky. He has this will they won't they thing at the burger shop, and then he helps his sister. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think
Yeah.
Trevor's ever been given a lot to do in this film. I appreciated this one for being part of the team. He's got the little 18-year-old bit that leads to a couple funny jokes, and then 3 scenes with Slimer that I think in the end, I know that guy. Like, that got me.
I
Yeah,
guess
it
in
says-
Afterlife there wasn't also like 8 other
100%.
characters. you know?
100%.
He also has a great moment in this. I thought was one of the funnier ones where he was talking to Kumail and he's like, We're just underappreciated. Why?
Who's the real brave guy? The guy who does other
Not having
That's what I've been saying, right?
Which was
connect
pretty
on being
funny.
slackers. I appreciate that.
But again,
quite a
I
bit.
think like to go
Hey,
back to
man,
it.
Look, I don't got any size 10s. Will you fit into size 8? Like that moment was fucking. That's probably like the most I laughed in this movie.
I hate to keep harping on it, but you know, when you have a character that is that character, and you have who's like the side character, that's an opportunity. That's an opportunity for that character to do more shit, and in doing that, to grow as a character and have an arc. He just doesn't have one in here, which is fine. Again, but I come back to how many Ghostbusters are in this movie, right?
Yeah.
There's 4 main Ghostbusters, and he's one of them, and he's not really doing anything in this, and so it's a big missed opportunity. I'm sorry. There's like 18 Ghostbusters in this movie.
Yeah.
Sorry, but I'm in 4 main in the like the
I know what you mean.
Ghostbusters in the firehouse.
In the Spangler household.
That is the
family.
Ghostbuster. If you're in the firehouse, you're working in the firehouse, you're the Ghostbuster. You got to have a purpose in this movie.
Anyways, that's happened. They come back. They do think, okay, so, and then Gary's working on a proton pack and Phoebe's being upset about it. He unplugs it and then is like, hey, could you help me? She comes over, still pissed off, and just plugs it in, like, fixed it. That's all it was or whatever. And he takes this chance to, like, listen, I know this sucks and I'm sorry it's got to be this way, but it's going to go fast and yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. Then the alarm bell goes off. There's a call. Phoebe tells him to go. They all go down there. I might actually put in that ahead of itself. But Phoebe comes to the Ecto-1. They literally tell her, don't get in the Ecto-1. You can't do it. Finn comes in. He's been slimed by Slimer. They climb in. They rip out. She's left being disillusioned in the firehouse. We get a scene of Ray picking up the orb back at Ray's occult. The Ecto-1 going by and him watching and then smiling. And that really warmed my heart.
That was
like
great.
I really loved that as like, he's not longing for it. He's excited to see other Ghostbusters out there doing their thing.
Yeah, to sort of completely contradict what I said earlier, where I wish that he was the one kind of driving the science and still in it.
Yeah.
I do love the subplot of him being retired.
Golden years.
The golden years. I like he's got a great dynamic still with Ernie Hudson. They have those wonderful moments. And this one scene was nice. But I clocked it more as like he yearned for the years. Like he saw them passing on. I didn't think it was like a passing
It's
torch moment.
bittersweet, but I think
It's
I
bittersweet.
see it him being happy to see the Ghostbusters in New York. He's happy to see the Ghostbusters going.
My
Even,
thing-
though, even though he'd love to still be young enough to be out there and doing it.
This is another one. The Golden Years subplot is another thing that I'm like, oh, this is great in theory. I just feel like the execution was all over the place.
I'd
and-
like to wait till we get there.
Yeah,
Like, when
just real quick though, it's just like seeing them suit up again and like even Ray, like whatever. It's just, I just don't buy that this is a big moment. It feels like you guys do this all the time because like I know it's just when we check in with them, but it just kind of felt really working against the plot of like what they're actually looking for in life. So yeah, this moment was really nice. I just feel like they immediately then 180 on it.
Sure, fair enough. We go back to Phoebe, who again has been left on her own devices, has nothing to do, so she decides to go play chess in the park. She's just gonna
Maybe my favorite scene in the movie.
Very nice, right? And it was also surprising. They've done a great job of keeping the character of Melody hidden. We knew that Emily Lind is in the film, but we didn't know for the longest time what she was doing in it. So when she sets up the pieces and then she goes to grab the other side and the blue hand appears, I immediately went,
thought it was going to be held Ramis.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Don't tell me she, for some reason,
Goes to the park and plays chess with her
don't tell me
grandpa.
fucking Egon's ghost is back and playing chess, and then to see it go all the way up and become Melody and see Phoebe go, oh, like deflate,
down.
right? She was excited
Hoping
to
it was
see
gonna be
Egon and
Melody, yeah.
excited to get advice or talk to him or interact with him and have it be Melody. I was like, that is perfect. I love that.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah. And of course, then we go, of course, like, we're not scared of me. This is a fun thing, I think, is, why would I be scared? Do you want me? I can leave. I can go, no, blah, blah, blah. And they play chess and she beats Melody goes and this guy. I like the entire thing and just great. I died in a horrible tenement fire. Oh, I died before I became crispy. I was like, oh, yeah.
And her be like, your flames are cool. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I loved all this stuff. And I feel like there was a great chemistry between them. And I was immediately invested. Like, this was the first time in the movie that I was just like, oh, they're doing something new. And like, I feel like they're going to run with this. And they walk with it.
Yeah, exactly.
We got there in the end with this though. So to me,
I still don't think he got all of it.
I think we got what I like about this is that you have an emotional attachment to their connection. You get that you feel that by the time that they're midway through the movie that they're falling for each other, and it's nice and that's a hard thing to do in a movie called Ghostbusters, right? Even let's be honest, even in the original Ghostbusters, you're like, did Sigourney Weaver really like Venkman?
Yeah,
Was she really walking away with him and getting his number? Or was she just like, all right, fuck it, I'll make out with this guy once and that's it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I just thought they were great. This was great. Would have loved to see more of it. When we
100%.
get to the twist, it hits, and you're like, oh, obviously you see it coming, but you're like, don't do it. Oh, that's a bummer.
But then the afterwards, though, I didn't like. But we'll get into that later. I agree with you. The twist, it hurts. But then it's like, I just feel like
And
where
it
ends
also,
up is like,
by the
what
way,
are you doing?
It also makes sense because I think I was talking to Andy outside, and he was like, "Why would she get into that machine?" I was like, "Dude, you do stupid shit when you fall in love for the first time. It's perfect.
Yeah.
You fall for someone and you just believe they're the best person on the planet. You trust them wholeheartedly because you've never been hurt before.
Yeah.
And that's what this was. And it's such a
Totally.
cool
It's not
dynamic
a twist,
to
it's just
have.
the reveal, right? Because like they tell us as an audience, she's bad. She's doing bad things.
Yes, because she
So we
walks
know.
out and goes, "I don't want to, Dormammu, I don't want to 100%. I don't want to bargain with you.
Anyways, so that all happens. Everything happens there. It's their first meeting, and then she just disappears there at the very end, leaving Phoebe kind of befuddled. But she heads back. Here's where I believe Lars, the ectotech, shows up, comes up, and the containment unit is getting full. Why don't we just build another one? And then this is where they throw down the blueprints of the
Love it.
original containment unit. Is this my father's handwriting? Yes, this is Egon Spengler's grand design. Ernie Hudson, of course, Winston, and Andy Potts, Janine have joined us here at the table while we talk through this whole thing. And then there's the conversation, why don't we just build another one? You haven't told them? We already have. And it's like, again, this is a very weird, like, you've been back for 2 years. Let's say you started it up a year and a half ago, a year ago. At no point you've been like, we also got this whole, because Paul Rudd's like, are they doing, can you send Winston's guys? Are they doing secret Ghostbusters business? Yeah, secret ghost. And then he shows up in a new flight suit with a new patch. Like, so you've seen this guy before or somebody like him before?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what? I don't understand. And what the fuck is Winston's business? Anyways.
Yeah.
He's a businessman.
They've taken over this aquarium and out in New Jersey, I assume, and they are doing ghost experiments. And all sorts of
This
things.
shit was cool.
Very cool.
This is where I was
Men
like-
in Black.
This was very, absolutely Men in Black like. This was very much like if the firehouse wasn't so iconic. This should have been this. We should spend more time in this HQ because this is ripe for cool shit to happen all over the place. And then the next movie, you see like the big fucking tank where they used to keep a whale, and there's a big whale ghost or something cool like that. Love
Whale ghost.
that it's kind of lo-fi. Like they haven't really cleaned it up since all the quote unquote squatters were doing. I forget what he said they were doing. They were like doing drugs or whatever in there. They didn't
In a
bother-
rave.
Yeah. Oh, it was a rave.
In a
That's what
rave
it was.
venue.
And you
Yeah,
could still tell that they just didn't bother to clean it up after that. All this stuff was cool to me, and it's intriguing and it's interesting. And I'm like, I want to see more of this world.
Yeah, what's cool about it is the through line, that Ghostbusters, the defining principle of all the tech has always been garage sale cobbled together.
Yeah.
And they keep that here, even though it is this thing of like, it's all, we're making all this shit up as we
still have
go.
the
So it
DIY
is,
nature of
it
it,
is
yeah.
boards put together with things plugged into them and all this stuff and weird interfaces and shit like that. So
But also
it's
very
interesting
much-
to scale it up, but still keep it homegrown, if that makes sense.
Also, very much an analog for just New York in general, right? A city you don't want to tear down the old bones; you just kind of build on top of it. And you see all the architecture, and then they put the proton field on top of it,
Yeah,
but it's just kind of stapled onto the wall. I love all that stuff. I think it's cool.
Sick.
And so, of course, they've got a whole bunch of ghosts there. They're not escaping because they've been put down. This same tech in your proton packs on the glass. So it's like a zoo. They got the one weird guy with the teeth we don't like. They got the possessor ghost
Scary.
popping all over
Talking
there.
about the little
Possessor
little
Ghost,
ball.
awesome, man. I
Yeah.
really thought it was like such a cool idea and used so well, and then it just keeps going. I feel like they lost it. Like
Yeah.
I just feel like it's like, man, what a great idea that was doing such awesome things. It eventually gets the lion. It's like perfect setup, payoff. They're doing this right.
Animation looked awesome.
and it just
rebuild the
kind
lion
of
at the
like
end of the movie?
They rebuilt the lion. People love the lions. Don't worry, we rebuilt it in 10 seconds and we put cracks back in it.
Yeah.
Okay. Weird. That was odd one.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you have
Weird
done
stuff.
that shot with nothing on the thing all smashed up? I don't know. A sign, the Ghostbusters fucked up. We'll fix it for you.
yeah.
Anyways, we're running through, getting all the tech. Of course, this is the reveal. The amazing reveal, Andy, that Ray and Podcast are doing this fucking thing to get possessed things that have spirits attached to them, and one of them is a PSP.
Yep.
Are you fucking kidding me? When they had a PSP on that table, I was like, hell yes. You're telling me I get,
thing
I get, as a Ghostbuster now, I get to carry a PSP with me at all times?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm in, baby.
it's canon now.
Yeah, exactly. And they
was great.
then show this very complicated system they have of put it into this thing, shut the gate, suck the ghost out, put it into the other one. The ghost floats for a second, then zap it into your gigantic, then put it into the trap, then take the trap and put it into your fucking quad goddamn containment unit. That's as big as the American West, which I think leads to another funny bit of the Home on the Strange and the tit for tat until Paul Rudd just can't do
Paul
it
Rudd
anymore.
loses it
Gary
so
Gruber
good.
can't just do it. I was like, that's fucking funny as hell. So yeah, the establishment of that. Oh, then of course we also establish here that Lucky's there. She's out here doing her internship as well, or her internship, I guess. And that's cool. Yeah, sure, okay, that makes sense. Whatever. again, like, oh, I didn't know you're doing this. It's like, but you knew she was here for an internship, but you're like, you guys are finally on the same coast, like one subway ride from each other. You're not talking about it. You're not seeing each. I don't know. Whatever.
Weird, man.
It's just a weird disconnect, I feel. Anyways, doesn't matter. But yeah, this is also where Ray introduces, of course, the orb to the team and is like, all right, cool. This is the deal, blah, blah, blah. We then jump from there. We drive back to the firehouse. I'm getting a bit muddled in my own head. I know what happens, but it's getting the order right. Just because I'm here, if you don't mind, I'd like to do it. I'm sure we jump back to the firehouse, and I guess that leads to the next thing, which would then lead to them going to the diner. But no, it wouldn't. No. I'm there. So we do all of that. Congratulations, we've done it. And the orb is there.
Congrats, everybody.
We crushed it. We killed it. Nah, I guess I did lose it a little bit. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to put it there that then it's not where it happens in the film, but Lucky and Lars doing the experiment of trying to extract finally from the ball, right? The ball fights back. All the ghosts in the containment unit are like freaking out about, or the room are freaking out about it. The possessor goes slamming the chair.
This was creepy.
Yeah. Possessor goes, I did like the line, if you're good, you'll get a ball later. And it like stops being a dick. And then when it starts doing this, it starts panicking and pounding on the glass, trying to get their attention. And then the other ghost like creeping into the darkness to get away from it, right? Of course,
Scary as shit.
Yeah.
Power cycles, so the ghosts could escape. They don't, though, fear of Garaka for a second, right? But then, of course, Lucky's like, why aren't they escaping? They're like, oh, it's okay. So they start escaping. Power comes back on, locks everybody back up. Everything's all's well that ends well on that one.
Possessing a Spin Doctors CD.
I like that. Yeah. That got me. I got a laugh out of me in the theater. Nobody else laughed. I was like, I like that joke. Anyways, from there, we're doing all of that stuff. And yeah, I will toss in here. This is where they go off on another call. No, that's too soon, Greg. That's not where it was.
Do things get chilly yet?
Well, they did when the first thing happened with the ball.
Because I just want to talk about the proton pack beam.
Oh, no,
getting frozen.
we're away from
That
that.
shit's fucking
Yeah.
awesome.
That was awesome.
I mean, we can
So
just keep
cool
combining
looking.
stuff here of all of this from the scenes, right? Of like, that all happens, and then they bring the Ghostbusters back to be like, yo, all this shit happened with the fucking ice thing we had, right? It got close to absolute zero. Oh my God, the thing where all molecules stop and shit like that. And because Lars burned his hand on it. He's like, if you think that's cool, watch this. And he puts a claw on it and brings it over to the marshmallow, the mini puffs, and shows that we think it's mind controlling them, right? And they all flip out and do their little stupid shit or whatever. And like, oh my God, that's crazy or whatever. While that's happening, a little bit of ice creeps up and shorts out the possessor ghost's cage. That he jumps out into podcast equipment. I'm like, here's where they're going to figure out.
This is gonna be great.
They're going to record the speech and then play the speech.
That was kind of cool seeing the possessor go through the cracked pieces of glass.
Yeah,
and find a way out. It
yeah.
was pretty neat.
So sick.
And so they're like, cool. And this then establishes like, okay, let's all head off on side missions, right? Of like, all right, where did this come from, right? And like, and Ray's like, okay, that's when we jump to Kumail's Dottie's apartment, right? And this is going to be Trevor, Lucky, and Lars who knock on the door. Kumail again is just like, hey, we're here with the thing. No, that money's already gone. We're not here for a refund. Immediately opens the door. He's a typical gamer who's been wasting all of his time playing video games.
One of those gamer chairs.
Yeah, selling those, illegal sneakers or whatever, and like doing all that stuff. Immediately, Lucky's like, "Oh man, nipple play, I like it." He's like, "That was my Dottie's favorite painting. How much do you want out for it? how much? I can never part with it. How much are you offering?" Eventually shows them into the secret room behind all the spices or whatever that Kumail found when he's looking for a Pop-Tart. Which Tim shook his head at, and I was like, "What's wrong? Is it bad?" And he's like, "No, it's just such a Nick line."
The most, like, did you write that? Like, that was like
Possible.
so you.
In there, of course, it is a brass room full of brass items that immediately. Oh, cool! A sex dungeon. Now, this isn't a sex dungeon. Would a sex dungeon have these chains? Yeah. As soon as I said it, I knew. I like all the sex dungeon jokes.
A lot of good humor.
And then eventually, when they double back on it, and he's just like, "Will you please stop making sex dungeon jokes about my recently deceased grandmother?"
My recently deceased grandma was in line.
But of course, we it's grass, like we already talked about, or we didn't talk about it. Yes, ghost traps. Well, I guess Dan mentioned it. Ray mentioned that you trap evil spirits in when he's talking to Kumail. Anyway, so it's also soundproof. The sex dungeon again, they can scream. But it's of course teasing the fact, and Lars calls it of like, would it be because they didn't want there to be any sound around the orb or whatever. From there, we go to the occult shop where Podcast and Phoebe are hanging out with Dr. Ray. Dr. Ray and Phoebe are talking, and she's like, maybe I have skipped it there. But this is where she asks, have you ever wondered what it would be like to be a ghost? he says, every day of my existence, you know what I mean? What would feel to evaporate to do this, blah, blah, blah. While they're chatting about that, there's a weird sound coming from Podcast's camera phone. They go, what's up? Camera phone? How old am I? His phone. What is that? He's like, oh, well, when I was recording the orb, I picked up this thing. That's an ancient language, you know, blah, 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 blah. I know somebody who could actually decipher that for us. At which point Phoebe's like, let's go. And he goes, aren't you benched? She goes, aren't you retired? And the Podcast goes, oh, you going to take that? And they have the knowing grin at each other. And I was like, that's fucking fun. They jump onto the Ecto C, take off in this little fucking little motorbike with the sidecar. Like, that's fucking fun as hell. They drive to the library. I'm going to do it here because I think I did miss it or whatever. There was that other call, right, where the entire Ghostbuster team left. Phoebe was alone. Phone rang. She answered it. Ghostbusters. There's somebody at the diner. She and Podcast suits up again. They go out there with their own proton pack and trap. They walk into the diner. Are you here for the ghost? And Phoebe shows the ghost patch and Podcast just holds the trap. They go over there. It's Melody in the diner chair, right? Flicking her thing. They have this moment where they look at each other and they don't really know what to do. Of course, whatever. I'm a 40-year-old man. I would have been immediately like, oh, I know this ghost. It's cool, guys. And I would have sat down, but Phoebe's a kid and doesn't know what to do because she's trying to pretend, I guess, to be a Ghostbuster. She knows what's going on.
Yeah, she wants to show people she
Podcast
got
wants
the
to
stuff.
do it. Yeah, but here it is. Instead, they wait long enough that Melody shoots out the window. Podcast screams she's getting away. Phoebe fires a blast, smashes all the windows. And I go, here we go. This is where the hammer of the mayor will come down. Phoebe is in the wrong. She has blasted through this thing. She almost hurt somebody in the street. Clearly, no, this isn't what
Zero
it gets.
consequences.
Right? Instead, Phoebe goes back home with a Podcast, hides a proton pack under her bed. At this point, Melody floats up to the window. She's like, oh, hey, you know, do you want to come in? If I wanted to shoot you, I could have shot you. I'm a good shot. I'm glad that's covered. Do you want to come in? Do you want to come into the ghost extermination building? Yeah. No, probably not. She comes in. They hang out in the room. It is a very... I am into you, and you are in my bedroom, and I don't know. I've never thought this through. I don't know what to do
I'm
now.
feeling the heat, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm feeling the heat.
The rest of this place is cool, and they start walking around.
I went to the bathroom around here. Bill Murray pops up somewhere here, right?
Right. We're about to get there with Kumail.
Okay.
So I'm going back and inserting this piece that I wasn't sure where it went, but I definitely missed it. This is where she tours the rest of the house. This is my locker. Got my name on it, like all this stupid shit. I remember bringing my first high school girlfriend to my house and be like, "This is my drawer of action figures," like all this stupid shit, like whatever. And then she floats through the floor.
First and last time she came over for Greg.
I'll tell you what, it was an eye-opening experience when I said that, and she's like, "Action figures," and I was like, I am too old probably to play with those.
I guess I just stopped.
Anyways, she floats down to the containment unit. This is the I know what this is. You know what I mean? And then she's like slowly reaching out. Do you ever wonder what happens to us when we die? And then, Phoebe goes, I've seen it. She retracts her hand. She's like, you've seen it? It's actually pretty beautiful. You know, your molecules disassociate and you float up into space. What do you think happens next? I think you become, quantum physics would say you become part of the fabric of the universe. And
Cool.
Do you believe that? I always believe quantum physics. Fucking dope.
Awesome.
You know what I mean?
Good line. Good scene.
This is where Carrie Coon opens the door and is like, Phoebe, what's going on down there? She's like, oh, nothing. I'll be up in a second. Don't worry. At no point, also, why are you in a Ghostbusters uniform right now? Didn't we bench you? Didn't we take this out? Whatever. You know what I mean?
They're comfortable.
Exactly. They are quite comfortable.
At one point, though, when she was inviting her in, and this is just because I've watched Lost Boys way too many times, I was like, is she giving her permission to come in, and does that give her powers or something? A vampire can't come in unless you grant them access in. And nah, she's just like, come on in.
Yeah, exactly. She disappears, then we're caught up to the rest of the movie. Jumping in now, when they're in the sex dungeon, blah blah blah. Lucky's going through the PK meter and brings it to Kumail, and it goes and wigs out. And he's like, "What does that mean?" It means you're coming with us. We take Kumail back.
Do we see Melody leave?
She just disappears.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you're right. No, I'm so sorry. You're right. You're right.
Or whatever?
She disappears. I'll be up in a second. And then we see her walk down the streets of New York and all the lights go out. And Garaka, she's like, I know. I understand.
Yeah.
Does
Great
it have
visuals
to be
here.
her?
I like this a lot.
Yeah.
Looks sick.
Okay, I understand. Anyways, now
I can't do this to her or whatever.
it doesn't have to be her.
Man.
Yeah.
Sad.
Kumail gets brought over to New Jersey Ghost Labs. He's put into the colander, but it's in Peter Venkman's office, so they do a little pan of Dr. Venkman. We go in there, and he's like, "This is just going to be some simple questions to decide if you're, you're a human or an evil being or whatever." Okay, cool. Puppies, like them? Or do you want to kill them? Like them. All right, cool. If you were going to eat a child, would it be skin on or skinless? And this leads into a bunch of funny questions and things. And he starts throwing pens at him. And again, we're seeing the fire behind him. Very mood slime-like, right? As Kumail gets angrier and angrier, get bigger and bigger. The Ghostbusters out there are acknowledging that. Eventually, Bill Murray does as well. And then Kumail turns around and acknowledges it as well. I liked this scene. I enjoyed this.
Oh, that was
the
good.
puppies, I don't like the question, but like I like the build up to them being super weird.
These two have a good chemistry too.
Yeah,
Bill Murray and Kumail.
yeah, oh, yeah, very much so.
That would have been a fun day of shooting.
Oh, I can only imagine, right? And like, yeah, does this skinless or skin on or skin off? Does that matter? Do I know the child? Would that matter?
Yeah. All the follow-ups are fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. But this established, yes, there's something going on there with the fire business, right? But we don't know yet because we have to go to the library. That's where the Ecto C rolls up to. We park in front of the library. This isn't a parking spot. Don't worry, they know me here.
Yeah.
The original guy in charge of the library from Ghostbusters 1, like the first scene with the guys, right? Comes out and is like, Dr.
You're
Stantz,
banned for life.
you can't be within 50 feet. He's like, it's okay. And then walks in, and of course.
The right type of nostalgia shit for me. It's like, yeah, if we're gonna do this, do it. And I think they did it right here. Like having him come back, like even me who's only seen Ghostbusters 1, like I don't know, twice or something at this point. I was like, I recognized him. I saw what they were doing, and I was happy they were going to the library because why the fuck not?
Yeah.
And this moment may have worked more in your theater where that guy was cheering up in front or whatever. But in my theater, like this totally had that thing that everybody accuses Marvel of, like, you got to wait for the applause. You got to let him be on screen enough for people to be like, woo! There. And like, it was just dead silent.
You heard somebody go, what the fuck is that?
And he just stayed on camera for a little just too long.
Yeah, he has like a reaction at the end.
Yeah, and you're expecting, like, oh shit, it's that fucking guy. It was
Library guy.
It was kind of awkward.
Library guy. Career's gone nowhere in 40 years. I love him.
Maybe he owns the library now.
In the basement of the library, of course, or I guess not even the full-blown basement, right? But in the back rooms nobody cares about is Patton Oswalt, whose actual character name doesn't matter because it's just Patton Oswalt being Patton Oswalt, and God bless him for doing that. They come in
I like
here.
the visuals here in this little story retelling. The
Oh
kind of
yeah,
like
when we get there.
stone
Before we get there,
Dude,
we have before we get there, like one of the funniest things is like, and they play the thing is like No, they play it right, and he's like, "Oh, this is a language that only 5 people know. This is clearly Doctor Whoever," and he goes to pick up the phone,
with him.
and Logan came podcast and goes, "Dr. Whoever's already dead." What? No, he's not. No, that was really good. Why would you do this? And like Ray like smiles at him again because he sees him becoming a Ghostbuster or whatever.
So good.
But again, we lay out the entire thing here, right? Of like this, that, the other. It's this language that's been around. What they show him the orb. He's like, "Come with me to the basement of the library." Like,
Why?
'Cause
Like,
no, you know.
there's a library under the library. Like this to me was just like, you are making this way more complex than it needs to be. But
I
like,
think this is where we put all the shit nobody cares about that they don't think's real, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I take away from it.
Yeah, this is one of those scenes where, like, again, fun scene, Patton Oswalt, another one that could have been desperately cut out of the movie, and you could have just replaced that with them smashing a book onto a thing and been like, Tobin Spirit Guide, whatever it is. We found this thing. It's fun. It's and Patton Oswalt's great, and he's having a great time giving us the exposition.
like when he does his little asides of like, great, no notes. Like I like that when he's like commentating on the story he's telling about Garaka killing everybody and everything else.
But another one of those moments where this just exists for pure exposition, and then we have a little bit of fun where we see the nostalgia of the librarian or the library ghost at the end of it. But this could have been a moment where they were put in peril as well, right? We could have had an action sequence where yet again something's trying to stop them from getting this thing. This Dormammu guy. What is it? Garaka.
Garaka, yeah.
But instead we just get another kind of silly scene that didn't necessarily need to be in the movie.
Yeah, of course they show it. We get the cool animation showing what Garaka's backstory was.
I mean, we've done hundreds of movies in review now, and anytime they do the like, hey, we're doing a flashback or exposition, but it has a cool different art style. I mean, I always think about Harry Potter with
the Kung Fu Pandas.
Kung Fu Panda does it really well.
Right,
like
right.
I thought this was incredibly unique and like actually a great use of the Ghostbusters kind of like look of like with the cement of the gargoyles and all
Sure.
that type of stuff.
And
of,
easy
like,
to follow as well.
Yeah, I thought it was
To
very
me,
sick.
though, again, a lot of setup for the bad guy. A lot of us telling us you're gonna fear this bad guy. You got to fear this bad guy. To me, it's not. I didn't like it. I don't like the use of this style, even though I normally do. But to me, it took me out of the movie because I did yearn for those moments where it's dark and it's just Ray and it's just Egon and they're just going, hey, this Gozer the Gozerian is a bad person. Apparently, he did X, Y, Z. We're stuck in this place. It's desperate. It's scary. And in this, it was just sort of like, hey, we're going to show you this interesting story that went on a little bit too long. I like it a little bit better when you lean on the actors to keep us in those moments as opposed to taking us out and showing us animation.
We get through it, right? And then he's like, if you like that, I got something that's really going to knock your socks off. We got a bunch of weird shit down here. We got these wax tubes that have the recordings on it. Here's Mary Todd Lincoln saying, fuck. She saw a moth. That's like, that guy like that.
It's so
That's
funny.
a good punch to that. And here's another one. These assholes, the Manhattan Adventure Society, right? They used to get drunk, fucking steal shit, and look at weird shit. And one time they did, and they all froze to death. It was the first time anybody in New York froze in July. They play it though, and it's doing the same chant we saw from forever. And this is where
It sounds like Nick doing a Michael Caine impression.
And podcast is recording it. The possessor jumps from podcast mic or podcast equipment into the thing, starts spinning out of control. It shoots off. It gets into a trash bag. The trash bag ties up. Trash bag runs away. They all run. And this is one of those, like, through many in reviews, and we're trying to watch a movie through a much more critical sense. This is where you're like, man, they did some reshoots here, because every bit from Dan Aykroyd of like, he's getting away or that exposition is off camera. So it's like clearly they're throwing lines in here to make whatever they had to make sense or whatever. It runs up, it disappears, they run, they chase it through the library. Eventually we get the librarian ghost again. Original footage of her from the first movie right there into her, the possessor that scared Dan again.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm saying that, not confirming that, but like my eye says, oh, that's the exact same footage.
You start thinking to yourself, they had like 10 years of fame. They couldn't go back and get this ghost.
No, the library didn't want to pay.
I didn't want to pay for
Yeah,
it.
and I guess they're banned too. So
that's a good point.
Anyways, the bag eventually escapes through the front door. Phoebe and Podcast are first outside. They go to some trash bags and kick it around. It's not then. Well, and then we go to Patton Oswalt and Ray, and he's like, it's out there. We'll never find it. Oh, there it is. And
it's like right behind his shoulder.
Yeah, they walk over to the lion because the bag and the wax tube are in between its feet. Patton Oswalt gives Ray a boost. While he's up there patting around, he gets the something's changed. The lion has looked at him. It roars in his face. He drops down. He gets pinned down. Patton Oswalt slinks away. He yells to hit the button on the Ecto-C. They throw a whole bunch of buttons trying to make it finally happen. Eventually, the sidecar pops open. There's a neutrino wand in there. Phoebe grabs it, turns to shoot. Nothing happens. It does blast. It blasts off the lion's tail.
Hit all the buttons.
Grabs aggro. It comes at her, but then it dies. Then, Podcast hits a million other buttons. And just as it jumps, and police show up. Please show up and see this. Just as it jumps, she blasts the lion, smashes the lion. The pieces fall onto the cop's car. From there, we are to the police station, where now they're in trouble. And this is a scene that just doesn't work for me narratively because the cops saw it. So, like, they understand she just stopped a lion that was about to kill her and Dan Aykroyd. So it's like, okay, like, you're not supposed to be a Ghostbuster, but in these circumstances, I think we're okay, right? You weren't suited up. You weren't in the Ecto-1. You weren't there to even bust a ghost. Things just fucking happened.
You were supposed to die
and you had
by
to
that
save
stone lion.
You had to save 2 lives, right?
Yeah.
Then what really doesn't work for me is Winston yelling at her and Winston yelling at Ray. And Winston not listening to Ray, where this whole thing is like...
See, I don't dislike that, because Winston is the guy that's like, Ray, you got to be better. You can't be bringing kids into, like, danger.
But that's not even, like...
Of it.
That's fine to a degree, and he does say that, you're right. But he's also ignoring Ray as Ray's talking about the being that's here to kill them.
Yeah.
To which they've now done 3 times. They also didn't listen to their friend Egon when he said all of this.
Right.
And, at the very end of Afterlife... Winston's like, I should have called. They all apologize to Egon for not believing him.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a bridge too far for me to not have it, let alone for Winston to be like, so hung up on the lion. Why'd you kill the lion was about to kill your partner and best friend and then turned to kill me. That's why I broke the lion. Like, this makes sense to all of the Ghostbusters. No, I understand Walter Peck being a dick about it and finally having his come up in some this is how I can destroy you. But I didn't need Winston to be the one driving it home. It should have been Peck driving it home, Winston trying to be the voice of reason but playing both sides because he's a businessman, yada yada.
Winston, and then in private, Winston being like,
"Hey,
he's fucking
sorry,
guy.
I had to do it because of the business and yada yada yada."
I'll play devil's advocate here. Like, I don't think Winston has seen the threat yet, and I think that Ray has sort of it's Ray, so he does have a history of being a little melodramatic and kind of overreacting to these things. So I don't know that he necessarily is concerned with that so much as we just got hot off the heels of him. You have to imagine being fined by the city for that the debacle with the Hell's Kitchen sewer dragon. Now we're coming into this, and it is disconcerting if you were to take a 15-year-old out and put their life in danger, right? 2 15-year-olds, because you got podcasts there as well, right? It's irresponsible at the very least. And this guy's running a company. This is one of his.
I just disagree, and I don't think it's an actual. It doesn't speak to the character of Winston.
I feel like the Winston, there must be rewrites and reshoots and like things cut because like I feel is the biggest problem. Anything relating to him of like the sense of the movie where this earlier we were talking about his group of ghost people. Why are they not working with the Ghostbusters? And like this being another example of like this just doesn't seem right because why are you putting him as a character and a force that feels more like an antagonist like the mayor than it should be somebody working with them. It's just there's too many elements going on with
there's a lot.
the
I guess the thing is like there's so many smart people in this universe, in this cast, in this group of Ghostbusters that I find a lot of the decisions don't make sense unless I go, it's a cartoon and it needs to be the thing, right? Because like even the ball, so we get Kumail, we've been to the dungeon, Lars calls out, this thing held it and it's soundproof, right? Like my first thing would be like, cool, let's get it back in there, shut it back up, and continue to study it.
Right.
But like, I don't want it out here, or let's brass plate the room it's in at the thing, or you know what I mean? Like, it's doing something we've never seen before. It's fucking wigging out the equipment. Like, let's get it away from everything it wants or would want, right? It's Ghost Army, but like again, that doesn't happen. And it's the same thing as I talked about with Lucky, right? Where it's like, Lucky fights Garaka. And, you know, in the trailer almost dies, so I want to see the edit of that because they cut that way back, right?
Yeah.
Didn't have her eyebrows freezing or whatever.
Her eye froze too. She blasts the ghost, knows it doesn't work, tells them it doesn't work, and everyone ignores it. But it's not, and then she doesn't bother to drive the point home. And it's not even that like, oh, well, I was using an old pack. I'm using one of the experimental new packs you just got. Why are you guys even suiting up? I'm telling you it won't work. Meanwhile, and I'm jumping way ahead, Phoebe, brass plating, that's what I'll do. But again, does it all by herself, and there's no conversation between everybody of like, I'm the only one who'll be able to do anything, so bring it to me. And then they're all shocked when the shit doesn't work. I was like, come on. Anyway, again, it's a cartoon, it's a movie, whatever. Not that whatever. Anyways, back to this thing. They get yelled at. William Atherton's like, this is it, man. This is all I needed. We've, seized all your shit. The firehouse is on lockdown.
Deconsecrated.
John Wick.
I was like, that's not what they say. Because Lars does say something to explain what it was. Civil liberty. I don't know. Anyways, though. And I'm going to melt down the proton packs in the morning, and you wait till I see what you do to your car. And then Phoebe stands up to fight him, and he's like, pick your next words very carefully. Are you going to behave, or you want to go to jail? She does the same inhale. And then it's like, Paul Rudd walks in. I would have put my money on behave. Like, he walks in there. They walk in there, Callie and Paul Rudd. They have their conversation with Phoebe, and this is the one where Phoebe really lays into them. This is, I think she already said the birthright bit, but this is where she lays it out for Callie of like, if you weren't a Spangler, you'd be answering our phones. Right. And that's a bridge too far for Paul Rudd. Up. Great line, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can feel it, too. Great. Then Paul Rudd steps up to be dad and be like, you don't talk to your mother that way, blah, 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 blah. Then they all get back in the car and they go back to the firehouse, which, of course, is locked up, as they said it would. I think this is a nice, understated, great scene, though, of Callie going to the lock and being like, Phoebes. Because we know she can break and enter right from Afterlife and all this different stuff, and she still does it to get him in there. And then there's this big conversation of, is this our last night at the firehouse? I don't know. We go upstairs. Callie is packing up all of her stuff to leave. Paul Rudd's like, are we really just going to run? And she's like, this is what I'm good at. This is what I know. And then he's like, but we're the Ghostbusters. If something's strange in the neighborhood, just a great, again, something spoiled by the trailer, but I think Paul Rudd, and even her, I think her chemistry with Paul Rudd is so good that I was just like, I've seen it and I know what we're doing and I'm loving it.
I don't think lines could be read better than the way he reads
Who are you going to call?
So good.
Like such a good spoken word version of this, right? Yeah, I loved it. I skipped, by the way, a while back when Trevor did the Cheetos to the trap for Slimer, which I also still loved. No big deal. Oh, that's how I fucked up the 2 calls before. My own head. I'm sorry.
This is a part of the movie, though, where it's like, all right, cool. We're really going to do we got to save the firehouse type plot. It's like, I don't know that we needed to introduce that here at all, if we even did, because it's not really that, except it totally is. And also, hey, the scale of this movie now needs to get fucking crazy. The ice, it's going to be a whole new ice age, Andy. Everything's going to freeze. And guess what? Every ghost ever's going to come back. It's like, guys, we did not need to go this hard at all.
Yeah, Ghostbusters, I think, still to this day struggles with what is going to be the final battle. You know what I mean? I'm excited for if there is a future for this franchise or an animated series or whatever. I would just love it to be, hey, it's a movie about the Ghostbusters going to basically the Amityville horror house and just doing that. You know, something's different
That's
about
sort of
this.
what Afterlife kind of was, which is why we liked it, right? It was small
Yeah,
town.
it sure was until there was a giant spiral into the sky where Gozer was going to come back and rule
enough.
over the entire world.
Fair enough.
To this point where Phoebe says, I've saved the world. Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
and that's the other problem too. Is like you start the movie off with chasing a massive blue dragon through all of New York.
I liked when
with-
it slammed the car, by the way. I left that.
Yeah, that was cool. We're going to go from there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That sequence was as dynamic as this final sequence with the slow moving monolithic bad guy. It's just not. That's a problem.
We'll get to
when
that.
it's
We're
so
not even there
big,
yet.
when you're doing all this stuff running around New York, but like superheroes, how do you have the same escalation that Marvel the issue had, where it's like, well, when you threaten the known universe, what do you do next?
Yeah.
Threaten
That's
all
why
of
I think
quantum time?
for me, a fun. People liked Afterlife a lot in a way I didn't expect them to, right? And I think it was because it was different. I think really it would be cool if the Ghostbusters were like, we're going to fucking Texas. You know what I mean? This thing's haunted and it's really weird, and we need to do a tight 90 minutes
Yeah.
there of like, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? What, you know what I mean? Blah, blah. I digress though. We're not there. We're in this movie for
Like a whodunit.
Yeah, exactly. Something fun.
Banishers, Ghost of New Eden.
There you go. Oh, which we kind of got. Melody's kind of
Yeah.
the Banisher thing.
Yeah,
Speaking
you're right.
of Melody, Greg White, Phoebe, last in the firehouse, she escapes to go play chess and find Melody again, right? While she does that, Paul Rudd knocks on her door and has a beautiful. I really like this scene. I really love Paul Rudd in this movie and the character of Gary and his connection to everybody. Because specifically, he wants to be stepdad. I'm her step teacher. You know what I mean? Like he wants to, but he also doesn't want to like impose that.
Yeah.
So this moment of him talking to her really gets me. And I really like, again, the subtlety of Paul Rudd, where like when he gets to the end, he's like, I think you're great. Like he does this great thing where he smiles, not like in a giant way. He smiles to himself that he finally said it. You know what I mean? Like that's like really great acting of like such a little mannerism that I'm like, oh, I'm really reading how much this means to him. And it sucks that she's not getting it, right? And like, you know, the family's who you choose and yada, yada, yada. Anyways, though, Phoebe's not even there to hear it. She's over there. She brings out the chess pieces. Melody pops back up, right? And she kind
Which I thought was a weird call.
Yeah.
Maybe not being there. Like
oh yeah.
him just talking. Like why?
Remember the scene in Into the Spider-Verse where he couldn't talk back to his dad?
Yeah.
And that was more gut-wrenching? Yeah, that was done better.
Yeah, I don't know. The movies and fiction, I feel like do this a lot all the time. And I think maybe it's for us to understand that he feels this way and he's finally saying it, which is growth for him. And then for when she calls him dad at the end,
But she should have heard it then.
She should have heard it.
But I see
yeah.
what I like. Well, I think it works because he said what he needed to say to feel like I've moved into dad mode, and she didn't hear
Didn't
it. So
need
she
to.
had her own journey to get there that wasn't motivated by him saying I love you without saying I love you.
But imagine if imagine if you put your character in a spot where she was being pulled back by that, but also wanted to go hang out with this girl that she liked, and she's got one foot metaphorically and literally out the window, and then has to decide, wait, do I go back to Gary, who I trust, who's now confessed he's my dad, or do I go pursue this
the
other thing
ghost
that I
realm.
think might be bad and kill myself for this love that I have? And instead, it's just kind of, the scene was weird and it kind of fell flat. And again, I want to draw the parallel to Into the Spider-Verse, where he's physically tied up and cannot respond to his dad, and it's a sad sequence because his dad's like, Miles, I know you're there, like just answer the door. And you're like, he physically can't. But that's also a metaphor for the fact that he's not ready to actually accept those words that his dad is saying. That's a strong scene. This scene kind of fell flat for me.
I think the thing would be that if Phoebe was 1 foot in, 1 foot out, I don't think that's where her character is in the journey. I agree of like, well, do I go to Paul Rudd, who loves me but is like being a tough parent, or do I go out? I feel like it would be a real dick move to leave. And don't get me wrong, there's a narrative and a thread there that they could have written to make that make sense, where she is more of a rebel kid. But like, this is all such surface level adolescence. Oh, I'm not a girl. I'm not yet a woman shit. You know what I mean? Where I feel like that would have been a.
But that's also the problem, is that like, let me go for it. Say, you gotta say.
Not yet a woman. I forgot that song.
Yeah, and again, we're Monday morning
all I
quarterbacking here.
need is time.
God, you know everything. We're quarterbacking here, but you want there to be a little bit of a conflict between this, like at this moment. And at no point do I not think that Phoebe loves Gary and sees him as kind of a father figure, and they'll get there eventually in the end. But you needed to drive it home a little harder with her being more conflicted and pulled toward this literal dark side, not necessarily, but like toward this evil thing going on. And we just didn't feel that.
Melody shows up. They walk around and kind of have this pseudo date where they talk, and it's here's my issue with this. The Melody Phoebe relationship is that I love it, and I feel like they play it safe throughout this movie. And what I mean by that is that I was talking to a friend afterwards, and I was like, I kind of feel like they leave it ambiguous so that if you're in a red state, you could watch this movie and be like, oh, they're friends. They're gal pals.
I don't know, man. Like, I feel like it is
I felt
incredibly
it was-
well done.
I think we feel it because we know what they're going for and what it is. I don't feel like I needed them to, at the very least, when they were both ghosts, I think, and I'm sure it was shot, I would have loved to have seen them come together for a very innocent kiss. And then Phoebe steps back and was like, that was great. What's wrong? I'm sorry. Poof. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that would have worked better to drive it all home to where we were exactly going.
I think the way that they did it is the best version of doing that without, like they did it. They did it without doing that, which
Yeah.
I think is like better for like actually showing the relationship instead of having to beat people over the head with it, which I feel like is like trite and a little weird. But
Yeah, I thought it was done as well as it could have, and I don't. It didn't feel ambiguous at all. It just kind of felt like
I think it's
this is-
ambiguous enough. Again, I'm watching it and I know what's happening. I get it.
Yeah.
I just feel like they didn't go that there. Maybe not even the kiss. Whatever. I felt there should have been one more step because I think there is this. Well, we could be on the same plane of existence. I know this one thing, and I was just like, I wish there was a little bit more of like. I wish I could touch. I wish I could hold your hand. I wish like even if it was that they reached for each other's hands and they went through each other and be like, fuck, this sucks.
yeah.
What I needed more from this back and forth was more pressure from Melody's side because as smart as Phoebe is, and again, you're a young kid in love, you'll do stupid stuff.
Yeah.
But like, I needed just a little bit of like of even though Melody didn't really want to be doing this, but she knew that it was like her task. I needed a bit more of like, well, maybe that machine could do that, and Phoebe to be like, I mean, it can, but man, that's a lot. Like
Now, what's another interest? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well, I just needed that from that relationship because, like, for Phoebe to just be like, yeah, fuck it, I'll just suck the soul out of my body and go into the. It's like, whoa, that's a big thing to do.
And I feel like this is where the third act just tumbles out of control in terms of speed. And this isn't me as I've watched all the trailers and read all the things. Just as watching this movie and the way you've all taught me to watch movies through many in reviews, this is another scene that I have to believe is reshoot city. Because again, it's the same thing where Phoebe gives a lot of explanation for what she's doing, and it's all off camera in the back of her head. So I really feel like something got cut in this thing. And I was talking to the other Ghostbuster folks for my tours and stuff like that. Nick, what up? Everybody go to Instagram.com/ecto1_NJ. And he called out, I forget what I was talking about, where he's like, well, remember that 2 weeks before the runtime dropped 15 minutes or like 30 minutes or something like that. And that's why there's something happened where the runtime changed. So they did leave something out, and I don't know if this is it, but it is the thing of like, this all happens real quick, and I feel like are, in some ways, illogical jumps for where we go, right? But they've established in the very beginning, can it work on organic matter? We haven't tested it or whatever.
yeah.
Anyways, they go to the Ghost Core headquarters laboratories. Phoebe climbs in the box, introduces this, well, I'm only going to be in there for 2 minutes. Like, I have this thing to do it in 2 minutes. I'm like, all right, I guess.
What's weird to me is that, I mean, like, obviously, who cares? But when we saw this work prior to this, it was suck the soul out and immediately get sucked into the machine.
I was like, how do you make sure you turn that off and you don't end up in a trap?
And then, how do you make sure you get out of that box? And then they just kind of cut her out of the box or whatever. It doesn't
Whatever,
matter, but
yeah, exactly. She steps through, right? And this is where she's like, oh, it's cool to be here. And you want them to, they have a moment or whatever. But then Melody looks sad. She's like, what's wrong? I'm sorry. Boom. Her eyes go crazy.
Cool. I
Blue,
enjoyed
Very
this.
cool.
Totally.
Yeah, Garaka can only control ghosts. He can't control humans. So, you had to do this. And again, this is another one where you're like, okay. Like, I'm trying.
Thank you for just telling me that right now, because otherwise I would have not.
I'm trying to
really
jump
cared.
through the hoops. And she's like, it's got to be a human voice. I'm like, okay, so that the wax, okay, but the tape record, okay, I guess that, and then
yeah, that
Phoebe
element
makes
is
sense.
kind of annoying.
Phoebe, no, because she heard it before. I don't. Okay, whatever. You know what I mean? It's like whatever.
I did think it was a cool visual of her laying there lifeless with just her mouth.
All that works.
Words.
I like all
was
that.
really
It's just
neat.
a few of the things where I'm like, what exactly is
The
going on?
details I just wasn't a fan of, but
Yeah.
overall I did enjoy this a lot.
It is one of those things that I don't want to lament this, but like when you have a character whose sole purpose, whose name is Podcast, whose sole purpose it is to record shit and brings like a shotgun mic with him, and then you make it a point to show him recording the thing that can only be spoken by human brain, like voices. The dumb part of my brain that's like, I wanted to be a screenwriter one day. I was like, this is going to come back in the third act somehow, right?
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
doesn't.
No,
They dropped the
not at
ball.
all. Yeah. Instead, though, Phoebe says that the really cool effect right on Garaka's boat, all going tick, 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 she's got little pieces like typewriter pieces falling out, right? And then poof, it's all black, right? And Grok is there with his glowing blue eyes, and he's like, "Your world will be frozen, and the bones and ice will break."
I was so scared of like a big jump scare in this moment.
Yeah.
When it's just them in the black abyss, I was like, "Oh man, something's gonna zoom into the front of the screen." I was very worried.
Andy, what do you think about his like horn holes?
I like the horn holes.
Mushy.
I mean, look, I loved that as a whole concept, and that being brought back to, let me go to that fucking lady's brass room, take the I was like, oh, those are the horn. Like, I don't know why I didn't put that together in that moment, but I thought that was a kind of neat reveal. Yeah.
You know what I kept thinking the entire time? Man, putting that ball back together, you're gonna be missing one piece.
Pain in the ass.
One of those things it's underneath that one little part of the cabinet behind the caster. You're never gonna find
this one doesn't fit now.
Move.
Yeah.
Phoebe's 2 minutes are up. She gets sucked back into her body. Then she looks like she's about to get grabbed or whatever, right? And then Lucky pops up with her proton pack, the new and improved proton pack. She blasts into Garaka's chest. He says, "Not today, child," and freezes it all back to her.
It is so cool looking, man. Like just the beams all being frozen and then just like slashed. Everything about this, I was like, visually, this is fucking rad.
This dude looked like a Returnal boss.
Yeah.
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 Just like I loved his like proportions and just this very skinny, freaky looking dude.
Freezes her again. It's not to the degree it was in the trailer where her eyes froze over and stuff. I wonder again. I don't know. I wonder if she died here, because if she dies here, that makes so much more sense for later at the firehouse when no one understands their proton packs aren't going to work. If you remember, of course, the top of the fire, one of the first trailer where all the Ghostbusters are up there, all the Spangler Ghostbusters are on top in their jackets, Paul Rudd included, goes, whoa, like that's not in the movie. Instead, it's now her and Trevor up there on the roof, and it's like, huh, I wonder if they killed her in the original draft and watched her like that's too dark.
I honestly, I mean, and again, like the actor, like the character from Afterlife, should have killed her. That dude, the blonde guy, should have lost a hand.
Yeah, well, that was another thing. When Lars' hand froze, like, oh, this can be cool. And he's just got the sling. I'm like, oh, that's lame.
Right. And again, we sort of established at the end that when you get to absolute zero, it just stops life. It doesn't kill it. And then you can kind of bring it back, I guess. I don't know. But I'm a big fan of, like, when you have this many characters, like, some of them have to be fodder, right? They got to be cannon fodder. You got to kill them to heighten the stakes of the third act. So that way you don't end up with 30 people standing with proton packs.
Kind of frozen.
Yeah,
not
really.
We'll get to it. Like, and that's the thing about it, where there's a lot of, like, there's weird stuff there, right? But anyway, so while that's happening and Garaka's out, right, he goes to the Fire Master's smoke shop and kills that guy. This is a scene I didn't need.
No.
Like, I get it. And then,
yeah, man, I'm the Fire Master. Read the fucking sign.
Then his next stop is exactly where he needs to be to get his horns to do all his shit. It might have been vice versa, but still, it's like,
you're right.
I get it. I don't, he's going to the containment unit anyway to get the ghost, so I don't need him killing the Fire Master guy, especially for a time and a thing or whatever, blah, blah.
That was dumb.
They needed to show violence.
But he put it back in his horn.
Well, they needed someone to die. But they don't want to kill out any of the main characters because they don't know what they're going to do later in the series. So
yeah,
looked like it felt good.
And so then
it looked like it felt like plugging in, not like an XLR, but there's like another like little circular plug with a lot of little thin pins.
Yeah,
it's like DMX.
Yeah, it looked like it felt good sliding those in there.
Lock in when you turn it.
So nice. And then they grew as he like that's cool. I enjoyed the look of it. I enjoyed his whole vibe.
He's a cool look. He's got a cool look as a villain or whatever. So anyways, he's full powered. Gary and Callie get back there. They find Phoebe and Lucky there. Phoebe or Lucky's like, oh man, yeah, she says the proton packs didn't work, you know what I mean? And then Phoebe's like, I fucked up. And it's like, okay, no, you're okay. And she's like, no, I fucked up. And then Lars like, oh yeah, we fucked up. And he has the ball. They get in the firehouse, the Ecto one, they peel out. At this point where we get the Cruel Summer trailer stuff where for some reason, even though Garaka's on the island of Manhattan in Grandma's apartment, this freezing effect from over the ocean comes in and freezes the beach and throws up the ice things and everybody's looking up and freezing and stuff. Cool effects, sure. It's just like why? I don't understand why he'd do it that way. Can he not just generate the ice? He needs a weather front and he's bringing it in there.
It's like Iceman, right? If he's in the desert, he has to like suck the moisture out of the water.
That's fair enough.
Out of the air.
We should have had Al Roker on to explain more of this. In my theater screening, no big deal.
Oh wow,
that's cool as hell.
It was him and Keenan and Ice Cube or Ice-T.
What?
And then it was
what?
You got to listen to Greg Way once in a while.
No, I don't want to break my streak of only listening to content that I'm on.
What if we told you it was a multimedia experience, Nick?
Thank you, Barrett. You're always selling, Barrett. I love that
We'll
about
listen
you,
to
and I
this. People
appreciate
should go listen to me.
that.
I'll listen if the rest of the audience listens too.
Okay, fair enough. Everybody get your Kind of Funny membership so Nick will listen to my show.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, they all get back to the firehouse, and this is where pandemonium's breaking out, and like Garaka's coming here right now, and everyone's there. Everyone's already there. Janine's already there. Ray's already there. Winston will eventually show up, and they're like, "Oh God, I totally skipped when they revealed the Kumail." We talked about it a long time ago, so I didn't really skip it, but I kind of. You're the fire master, right? So he's been. Light the candle.
There's so much
Light
in this
the
movie.
candle. Yeah. And so they keep trying, and he figures that out to a degree, right? But he can't actually do it. They all show up. Garaka's coming here. Don't worry, we got the fire master. Watch this. And he does the little thing or whatever, and finally lights it. And like, all right, cool, right?
Also lights the book on fire or whatever
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, exactly. They all start suiting up. The Ecto Z, the van there, shows up, and they pull out the new packs. They're all excited with the new packs. Ray nerds out about the new packs. Again, Lucky's told him it doesn't work, but she's like, you know what? I'll lay off because I'm probably dead in the original script, so I won't say anything about that right now. And then Phoebe's like, listen, I'm the only one to listen to Lucky. It won't work. I'll melt down all this brass stuff, including the pole, which I do think is a different pole, but I agree is an awkward shot.
Yeah, I mean, that scene of her doing all that stuff was fucking awesome. I just feel like it came out of nowhere. Like, I know there was like lines about the brass, but like, I just wish that we had more build up to her and like Nick's point of just like they should have been working together to make this all happen. But the new proton packs, then all the new stuff. As a not hardcore Ghostbusters person, I was like, I need them to be more new than they are.
Yeah, they gotta look newer.
Are these new? Why is Ray so stoked about these? Just because they told us, they're brand new or whatever. But I'm like, I don't know. There's something like I wanted some type of upgrade or something. Like it's
an odd element,
a
right?
super like distinguishable visual difference.
Yeah.
Well, this one had yellow on it. It had the yellow.
It had some yellow,
So that was cool.
different barrel.
But like to you, like
I thought
real
that was
talk,
just
Greg, like,
lighting.
as a fan, was this enough of like you felt like there was an increase in this, and you're like,
Greg's
those
gonna
are
buy all
cool?
the toys now. So yes.
Well, of course I'm going to buy the toys, but that's neither here nor there. No.
Yeah, okay.
I don't. I. It's cool to see new looks for the proton packs after they've been going so long. I like the idea of improvements to them, but for them also to come out and just be limp dicks, they don't do anything to this guy. It's like, okay,
I just think narratively to like talk about the new packs so much, and then all they do is not work,
Right.
and they don't look that much different. It was like, why are we focusing on? These so much?
My two answers are number one, merchandising, and number two, to explain why Walter Peck has the real proton packs, and now they have proton packs.
I want to go back to just the idea of Phoebe sort of modifying the old proton pack. One of the scenes I love most in one of my favorite movies is called The Lost Boys, where they have to. It's basically essentially what we're dealing with here, right? Which is that they know the vampires are coming, and this is their last sort of like they're going to
This is their
barricade
stand.
themselves
Yeah,
and making
yeah.
a last stand inside the house. And you get the whole cool montage of them taking whatever sticks they possibly can and making them into stakes. You get they're putting all the holy water and all the garlic in the thing. So they've set up traps for this thing. And you as the viewer are like, I understand what the flow of this is going to go, but I still don't think it's going to go their way. But what other choice do they have? That's what I was hoping this scene was going to be like. When they started holding up in the firehouse and Finn Wolfhard and Lucky go upstairs, I'm like, oh, this is going to be cool. We're going to have escalation of action going all the way up to the top of the roof or whatever it is. And it just never comes close to
doesn't
that.
happen.
But then we get Phoebe dipping the coils of the proton pack in brass. And I'm like, oh, it's going to be that, like, I could hear the music from Lost Boys where they're doing the assembly line of retrofitting all this stuff. And in the back of your brain, you're like, I don't think it's going to work. But dude, I want these characters to live. And instead she kind of dipped it, cut a little hole this big out of it, melted it down, and that was all we got. And it didn't even work that well.
Yeah, it did enough, but he still needed fire from Firemaster or whatever.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. They do throw a narrative in there of like the proton packs aren't working. And it's like, oh, he's from a different. He's a ghost god from a different. I'm like, oh, okay, I like that. I like you're explaining at least why this is different than what normally would happen.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyways, though, the city freezes, and then there's a long time of things just happening at the firehouse. Lots of time for them to prepare, and Lucky and Trevor to go to the roof and watch, and then they get the trike rolls up. And
God,
I was
the
just
fucking
like,
trike. What are we doing here?
I was like, they're
why?
like,
Jigsaw?
Ray's immediately like, possessor ghosts. I was like, oh, yeah. I would also just think ghosts. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you're nailing it, Ray. I guess whatever.
That was weird.
Then we had the Bill Murray scene already where he, can I be some assistance?
Great.
Millness in universe. Also, great.
good.
I love when he walks over to the fuse box and hits it open. And he goes, courage. And I'm like, that was great. I love that.
So much fun stuff.
I got a good laugh out of the theater.
Yeah. The trike rolls up, it shoots through the door, blasts off the door, blasts down the sign, and then it shoots into the Ecto-1. We get the red lights. the red lights like in when Ecto 1 got possessed in real Ghostbusters.
Incredible stuff. I mean, like that, again, if we're going to do this movie, you're going to have a possessor ghost. It's going to possess things. Don't possess the trike. Possess the goddamn Ecto 1. And I'm happy they did it. I thought it was a cool sequence here. But then it just got a little jumbled right after this, I think.
Yeah, of course. They run back and they, all dive out of the way of the Ecto. And this possessor ghost doesn't really want to hurt anybody. He's just fucking up. He's just being a fucky. I want to fuck around. Be a little fucky.
He's just, like he's there to cause chaos. And in some moments, it leads to like it's good comedic effect. In some moments, it just feels like filler, But I love the visual every time. I'm a sucker for just the look of just that red kind of thing.
Yeah,
it looks like it looks so physical. It looks like yarn at some points. I really love the visuals of it.
It eventually shoots its way all the way upstairs, right? Well, it shoots into a pack and it gets upstairs into the pack, right? Where Lucky then is getting slammed around in her pack because of it. Trevor tries to help, but it shoots. Oh no, it picks up the Neutrona wand, spins around to shoot him, right? Yeah. He cowers. Gary sees it. This is Gary's moment again, where I don't think it lines up before the staircase he's on. But he screams out. He runs down again. Show don't tell, him being Trevor's dad to a degree, right? Trying to cover Trev, and then the Neutrona or the proton blast going outside. Kumail controlling it. This is awesome. Blah blah blah.
Look, man, say what you will. I'm a sucker for any time anyone can control a blast with like a force-like power.
I mean, it was definitely hype. I just feel like
Weird.
Yeah.
Eventually, Podcast shows up with his big fucking hammer and smashes the proton pack to stop the beam.
Fun.
It shoots from there into the pizza box, starts walking its way out as the pizza jumps off. Slimer comes up through the floor, eats the pizza. I know that guy. I love it. I love this 3-scene Slimer Trevor love scene or love affair. I'm all about it. From there, the Ghostbusters are like, all right, cool, we're running downstairs. Kumail says, good luck with all that or whatever, right? And then he sees, or he may have already seen his Bubby's outfit or whatever, and whatever. They go down there. I'm sorry, Andy?
All right, this Slimer guy.
Yeah.
Was Slimer at any other point in any other property like a sidekick?
Yes.
Yeah.
The cartoon.
So that's what really just fucks me up about Slimer as an individual apparition. Because like I remember watching that cartoon a lot as a kid, and I just like
He was like
the
Firehouse Dog.
I couldn't tell you anything about it, but I remember him like being some. So when we first watched part 1 and part 2, I was like, oh, he's just like there's no like he can't talk back to him. Not that he ever spoke in the other properties.
He did.
Oh, he did? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, he was like, you know what I mean? He could say a little
Okay.
Peter. No, that was way too pronunciated.
Peter.
Peter. Slimer hungry.
Like that kind of
Slimer
shit.
want to go to college.
So I've just been
I used to be a doctor.
Slimer will do a tracheotomy on you right now.
I just thought this guy was like gonna be more than what he was, but he just pops up in every movie. It's just like he's just a thing that. Like,
I mean, this
will
is
float
back
around.
to again like the influence of real Ghostbusters on the Ghostbusters fan / audience, where it's like, keep in mind, Slimer is just in Ghostbusters as Onion Head. He's not called Slimer. They mention Slimers as a term or whatever, right?
Oh.
But then he's in Real Ghostbusters as Slimer, and he's just so popular. At one point, they start calling the show Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters. So, like, you know what I mean? Because they see kids fucking love this fucking ass. Kids can't get enough of this ghost ass. You know what I mean?
I feel like
Ghostbusters 2, they like fucking put Slimer in and have him drive a bus. Like, kids love him. Why not? You know what I mean?
think Slimer's one of those things that didn't quite cross generations. Because like it's similar to like what were those like there was just like a bunch of gross toys that we played in the 90s that like would not sell today, and I feel like Slimer is one of those things.
See, I think Slimer again. I think if I'm a betting man, I'm sure they'd love this to do a gajillion dollars at the box office, make Ghostbusters forever. I think they're more lining up to come back for an animated thing.
Yeah.
And if they were, Slimer's gonna be a big part of it again. Kids love Slimer.
Okay.
Kids do love Slimer.
Okay.
I mean,
Kids love
honestly,
gross shit. I mean, like Ben loves Slimer, and I know Ben's Ben's like the worst case of Stockholm syndrome.
Ben doesn't
My
have
kid
a
asks for a
choice.
proton pack all the time. What are you talking about?
Last time Ben said he didn't like Slimer, he wound up out in the fucking streets.
What's your favorite movie, kid? Ghostbusters Afterlife. Like,
To be fair, Slimer is like a hallmark of the series.
oh no,
right?
of course.
And that
I
makes
just feel
sense.
like it's so like In this movie, it felt so forced.
It feels very forced, very ham-fisted.
I again love it, and again, it can just be a member berry for me or whatever. But I guarantee, whatever the next thing is, if we're lucky enough to get anything, it will be Trevor and Slimer are going to be buds. He will be the. I think it will be the. He is actually the dog, like of the firehouse, and fucking around with him, whether it be live action or not. I digress, though. We all assemble down in the firehouse. There's a weird thing on a rewatch for anybody who wants to of sunglasses in this movie.
Bill Murray having sunglasses
Dan
on.
Aykroyd also has sunglasses on when he's inside the ghost lab at one point. And I'm like, what was going on shooting day?
But they were like Ray-Bans. I was like, did Ray-Bans sponsor
And then,
this?
Bill Murray,
Should've been
I assume something's been cut out, but he's inside during this with the glasses on, and they go, tall, dark, and horny. It's still a funny line.
Great line.
Yeah. But Garak is there, and it's time for the big showdown.
You
Garak
gotta
just
think-
slowly walks in.
Yeah. You got to think Bill Murray, who is notoriously difficult to work with, was just like, I'm wearing sunglasses. And the director's like,
You got
all
it.
right,
You
Bill,
got
I
it,
don't
Bill.
feel like arguing with you right now.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
odd and weird. It makes no sense, but sure.
Garaka walks in, right? I'll say he cracks the floor here. Maybe he doesn't right away. No, he freezes all the Ghostbusters. Yeah, we've tried talking, or we tried being nice. Let's try this. They all throw the streams, which is a cool thing. But they all just hit him in the chest, and he freezes them all and breaks. And again, this would be cool if we didn't already see it happen to Lucky. I don't understand why we're seeing it again and why they're acting like this is new information. Because if I'm Lucky, I'm screaming this the entire time that the ghost demon god coming to kill us is not affected by our shit. Like, listen to Phoebe, listen to me. I just don't get the disconnect.
Yeah, another thing that just a big critique I have of the scene in general, and I touched on it earlier, but the fact that we have so many people standing in line, all with proton packs, all fighting this thing, is such a missed opportunity. When you have this many characters, you got to break up the action. You got to give them things to do that all can tackle the enemy. You got the prime example of that is any Star Wars movie.
It felt so silly to have all of them lined up.
It's 30 people with proton packs, and none of them are doing anything of any merit. You have to.
We end the first movie with them in a line together, all shooting, but then
Right.
they need to cross the streams. Like, there's some added element of like, oh, they've learned something, they're going to do
Right.
it here. Instead, it's just more. And we, as an audience, know it's not going to work.
Guys, I don't care.
But we've already set up that's the weird thing too. Is we've already set up sort of the mini bosses, right? We've got what's the little tiny ghost that.
Possessor.
Sorry.
You got the possessor. You got some of these other elements. We needed a moment where it's like, we got to get the recorder back and play it backward. Go get podcast shit. Oh, wait, the possessor's fighting us.
We're running out of
So you got
time.
podcast,
Yeah.
and you got the Lucky fighting downstairs. Finn Wolfhard's fighting a fucking the sewer dragon upstairs. All these things have to come together to escalate the action. You cannot have 30 people just standing in a line.
It was so awkward.
Failing. It is boring. It is absolutely a wasted opportunity.
And then totally like the thing of like, again, I think they give us him killing the vape shop man to, again, stakes. He can kill anybody he wants. He killed all the adventurers. Like, I think that's crazy for a Ghostbusters movie because we don't usually see
By
that.
the way, we didn't see it, but he killed at minimum thousands of people.
Sure.
This cold front
Which we
coming
could
in,
have seen.
ice blades just
no, they
shooting
all got
down.
away. Well,
Every single person dodged. Every single person didn't
Hey,
get
man,
hit.
they saw what happened to you motherfuckers when you watch Man of Steel. They're like, we can't kill anybody.
Yeah, but I mean, and I think we talked about this, but we agree that you don't die until you shatter, right? In this universe.
Apparently. I mean, we've never actually talked about that, but apparently, because I was like, when I was doing the first run of plot in my head after the review, I'm laying in bed or after the screener, I'm laying in bed, like, I think I got it down. And I got there and I was like, wait, how did he incapacitate all the Ghostbusters? And it was, I watched again. He just pushes them up with ice. I'm like, well, why didn't he kill them? And then it's like, oh, he kind of sort of freezes them.
That's it, though. He does kind of sort of
And
freeze
it's
them
like,
and
so,
then
like-
kind of puts them in a kind of ice cage.
And then he cracks the thing. And downstairs, of course, is Phoebe hanging out with Melody. Melody's like, it's the only way to see my family. She's like, it wasn't, or whatever kind of thing. And then that happens. She's like, goodbye, Phoebe. He cracks the containment unit, sends the beam up into the sky. Winston had said where the spot between dimensions here, the space between spaces. There's this like sound out effect. You see all the ghosts shoot out or whatever. Phoebe gets up eventually. She comes upstairs with her blaster.
You get the shot from the original Ghostbusters where all the spirits are kind of popping around.
I was hoping they would do magic for a second.
Oh, me too, for a second.
Magic.
Although before we end, I do want to give a shout out to the soundtrack. The Elmer Bernstein
Dude.
sort
Yeah.
of like, they kept with the style. I'm like, it still works.
It really, really
It
does.
worked phenomenally.
Anyways,
sorry. I just loved all the boom, boom, boom.
Ba-dum, ba-dum.
Like, it's
Ba-dum,
great.
bum.
It's great.
Before they all get frozen right, Kumail comes down in the armor and does the whole thing of like,
Tries to negotiate.
yeah, exactly. And he's like, I tried to warn you, and brings up the thing, and there's no fire. Did you use all the lighter fluid? You told me to practice. This is where they all get frozen and pushed up. And again, even if you're frozen a little bit, you die. So I was like, and also if I'm Garaka, why am I not just killing you? There's no like, I've killed so many people already in this movie. I'm somehow pulling my punches to you guys.
Right, and that was I mean, and you've seen it twice. So what Garaka's ultimate goal was to what?
His Garaka's ultimate goal is to exact revenge on the human race, and his plan is to get all the ghosts he can, have a ghost army, and wage war on the entire human race and kill everyone.
Okay, so there would be absolutely no reason for him, as he's moments away from executing this plan, to keep anyone.
Well,
alive.
I don't get why he wants to keep the Ghostbusters even in his like frees him harder.
He doesn't need anything from them, you know.
He's already he's already broken into the containment field. All the ghosts are out.
Yeah,
he's won.
Yeah,
it's not like they have info that
right.
that'll help him.
But instead, Phoebe comes upstairs because she wasn't frozen right. She comes up. She uses the new copper blasted Ghostbuster pack, proton pack, zaps him. He actually does get hurt.
Like, oh
right?
shit! What the
fuck?
fuck?
God damn! You know what I mean? I ain't felt this shit in years.
It's like when I thought my shocker was off, but it was really on, and Kevin gets to shock me.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that kind of
Exactly. That gave enough wiggle room for. Oh no! Right. Sorry. Melody comes back up with her change of heart. She has the match that we never talked about, but you saw the fucking movie. And she flicks the light, and Kumail's able to grab that because he's not fully frozen.
We can think.
And nobody's fully
It's in his brain.
frozen.
It's in his brain.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll take it. I'll buy it.
The match thing was obviously it was quote unquote set up earlier, but just the way that they handled doing this was like not cool. Like I feel like this is the part of the movie for me where Melody just falls apart. Where I'm like,
It's
man,
the dice.
it honestly feels like the dice more than anything. Where I'm just like, I don't know about this, and like I just feel like
she set the building on fire by accident, right? Wasn't that the whole point?
Yeah.
It was her playing with matches to set the building on fire. But then why was the diner called the Melody Diner?
I think she chose to just appear there and do her thing.
Oh, because it's Melody. I
Yeah.
thought in my brain, I'm like,
I thought that was her parents' place or whatever.
Yeah, is that where they all burned to death?
I mean, it was a tenement, so
that's got to be a
that
building,
was
right?
what I thought too. But I guess I wasn't thinking enough
What's a
about what they
tenement
actually
fire?
said.
That's a big. That's
It's
a
when
building where people live.
Yeah,
right?
you live in they're like shitty apartments.
Yeah.
We skipped one. Jeremy calls out in the chat. Bill Murray's "Proud of you then, proud of you now" is the best line of the year so
yeah.
far. It was
Quit
really
smoking
good.
in the 90s. Proud of you then, proud of you now.
Jay Wim says, I thought Garaka's goal was to open the portal between Earth and the afterlife that Winston said the firehouse plug in the dam. Also, yeah, that was part of it, right? But it was also that he wanted to wage war and he wanted to control all the ghosts. But yeah, whatever. He needs all the ghosts out of it and open the thing and do the thing, but whatever. We never see the other side of it, but yeah, that's part of it. Anyways, though, with a little bit of fire, Kumail's able to go boosh and fire everybody, and everybody unfreezes. Phoebe now is shooting. Kumail is shooting. Kumail's shooting and she's shooting, and then I tear up for the first time here when Callie runs in and grabs the neutrino wand that Phoebe has and helps her the same way Harold Ramis Egon's ghost did at the end of Afterlife, where that was such a great scene. He grabs it and helps
Fucking
her out.
Goku helping Gohan right
Exactly
here.
right. And then of course Paul Rudd runs over and Trevor runs over because it is the
In
Spangler.
film Warfare, it's like I got nothing to do, so he just kind of puts his hand.
Yeah. It's the full. It's the full.
Fuck am I in this movie for?
It's the full family doing that. Meanwhile, all the old time while this is happening, they're like, "Shit, what are we? Gonna?" Oh, they tried to trap him, right? Yeah, podcast busted out the a drone trap that didn't work and it got knocked down. Also, he's getting attacked by mini puffs because we have to have these fuckers everywhere.
Oh man, they're everywhere.
Finally, Ray's got an idea. You know what that means? Pretend I don't, Ray, says Bill Murray, right? They run down there to the containment unit. He's way over explaining, and he's just like, just do it, Ray. We trust you. And he flips the grid to make a big trap out of the containment unit, right? And again, this is a scene you've been talking about with different planes of action and stuff. Don't get me wrong. Them all staying in line, dumb, frozen, dumb. This still gets me. I liked all the new Ghostbusters, the new core up there doing the wand together as a family, and then downstairs them doing it as a family, and then as a specific type of Ghostbusters nerd, the way they all put their hands on it is so much like the way they did in '84, right before they went up there and did that. So that hit for me really good. And then I did like the looking at him and going, "Golden years, golden years."
Yeah, that was a great moment.
I agree. I just wish that the trap. I mean, you have the trap that has a massive fissure in it that needs to be repaired. In another movie, you would have had another team repairing that as they're also fighting something. Sure. You've got we got to get the other trap out. We've established this little marshmallow man. It could have been an incredibly terrifying moment in the car where he's trying to do this thing and these marshmallow men are like hunting him down, which they kind of had, kind of didn't have that. Yeah. It's just there's opportunities here to utilize your actors and your characters a little bit better.
I mean, Nick,
also, how did the dang thing fix itself? Did I miss that part?
I mean, this is me jumping in.
Was it like Superman with the oil can?
I'll tell you my headcanon. Pretty much, when I watched for that this time around because I was like, wait, what the fuck? And the way when he gets sucked in, it slams shut and it looks like it like fuses. And I'm with you. I mean, like, I don't buy that that's now that's a bonded thing that's going to work forever.
You know? I mean, you've got these two generation of scientists, the blonde guy whose name I can't remember, whatever, and you've got Ray, and that would have been a great moment for them to like come together after having butted heads a little bit and be like, we got to fix this thing and do the right thing and go with the things of this, I don't know. You know, it's all
Nick,
cookie
Tim,
cutter.
just think about a nuclear bomb is about to go off, and Tom Cruise is fighting Henry Cavill on the side of the cliff while Rebecca Ferguson and the rest of the crew are like, we have to defuse this. I don't know if we could defuse it. It wasn't even Rebecca
and they're
Ferguson.
fighting,
it was his actual,
and he's hanging by his neck.
Is this-
and the entire time, your fucking asshole is so tight because you're watching Tom Cruise. I mean, like, I can't. My asshole couldn't get any tighter right now. And then it's boom, and it's a Sunday, but it's not the blast.
Oh,
it's Tom
man.
Cruise just sitting on the rock because he saved the fucking day. And you know how many characters are in that? 5. 5 characters, right? That's it. That's all you got.
Oh,
Garaka
man.
is sucked back into the containment unit that now acts as one big trap and has slammed shut and fused itself together. The Ghostbusters have once again saved the day, ladies and gentlemen. Melody, of course.
Tim, you gonna send that back or what? You just went like this. You're gonna like.
Oh,
knock it
did
back
I?
to us, yeah.
No, I messed up my fingers. I'm
mind
shaking it off.
She is a lucky woman.
Yeah.
So they start celebrating, and Melody is up there, and she's like, "You're right, fabric of the universe." She starts drifting away as she comes. Phoebe's crushed by it, turns, goes into her mother's arms. They hug, they embrace. The other Ghostbusters are all there to celebrate. The music swells with the Ghostbusters song, right? We go outside. The city of New York has come to celebrate the Ghostbusters. They're lining there. They have the blue shirt like at the end of 84, which I'm a nerd for, of course.
What blue shirt? Did I miss that?
I mean, a kid has a blue shirt that has a No Ghost logo on it, like at 84 when they all had it when they
that's
came out
awesome.
or whatever. The Ghostbusters come out, led by Annie Potts, who they're all celebrating. Bill Murray's doing a lot of this.
Forgot
the
Annie
other
Potts
people.
in the movie.
You have
Straight
to,
up, right? It's kind of weird.
You have to
Sorry,
imagine
no,
that all these people were just like, we assume the Ghostbusters did all this, right? Because there hasn't been a news report at all saying that the Ghostbusters were responsible for saving
I mean, there was
these people.
the thing through the ceiling. There was the big blast, and then
it
everything was
ends,
coming.
and then it ends, and then everyone's like unanimously, we're all just gonna think it's the Ghostbusters, and they did a great thing.
yeah.
No one tells them that the Ghostbusters saved the day
I mean,
at
at
all.
this point, Ghostbusters are back. When weird shit's happening, who you
I
gonna
mean,
call?
look, man, it's
You
true.
know what I mean?
People just cheer for shit they like.
Fuck God, damn, this is the best review possible.
The mayor rolls back up. He gets out Walter Peck, and he's like, "That's it, Ghostbusters. You're fucking done. I'm gonna do. You're fucking." And Bill Murray goes, "Peck, you clown."
Dude, God, what a great anything between Bill Murray and everyone of this is so good.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
has not lost this. Time.
It's another one of those like. I get it, but I feel like this is so rushed and everything here. Of just like the news reporters on him immediately. I'm just like, Mr. Mayor, don't you love the Ghostbusters? And it's like, he's like, yeah, because there's 100 people here who love Ghostbusters, I guess, right?
You know what, though? I loved it. It felt like a callback to 80s movies that we've reviewed a bunch of times here on In Review, where the movies just end fast. Yep. And it's like, oh shit, Rocky's
That's it.
just over. I guess the end of the fight.
yeah.
There's no like follow up at the end. And I kind of enjoyed that as the ending.
I'll tell you what, I was thinking that same thing. I was like, the third act of this movie went by faster than the previews that we had to watch beforehand of this, which were 35 minutes long.
They were very long.
Thank
That's
you,
not an
Sin Mark.
exaggeration. It's not an
Jesus
exaggeration.
God.
Everyone's doing it now. It went from 20 to 30
Dude, it's so
because they added
egregious.
commercials now. It's not just trailers.
I
They
saw
have
3
military thing.
commercials
It's
for Cinemark.
commercials
I'm like,
in
in the
between the
Cinemark.
trailers now?
It's
Yeah,
wild,
dude. This car. You'll see a fucking Mazda commercial.
Bro, come on. Maybe Greg was right. Shut down theaters.
Dude, I told Nick the same thing when he bitched about it last night. I'm like, are you on my side now? What if we could be watching this at home right now?
Fuck, man. I'd love
yeah.
to come over.
Okay, but imagine watching fucking Dune on a 32-inch LCD.
I don't have to imagine that because we were hearing Dune the entire time this movie was happening.
The entire time, dude. It was hilarious.
It's so awesome. I was like, fuck, I'd rather
The
be
mayor
watching Dune.
flips on it, of course, immediately because he's a little bitch. He's just like, yeah, no, Ghostbusters are great. And Wiss is like, I think what you're saying is we can do whatever the fuck we want, and we're part of the city and whatever. It's like, yeah, also you just released everything, so you're kind of like manufacturing your own business, but sure, whatever. But yeah, we all handle who are you gonna call? It's the Ghostbusters kind of thing. At this point, Slimer flees the firehouse, chased by the sewer dragon, and they're like, oh shit, we gotta go. Come on, everybody. This is the moment of like, Phoebe turning to Paul Rudd and calling him dad, and then shaking her head and going, Gary. And
Cute.
then
Love it.
That's where I cried. I actually
That's
cried
good.
at that.
Good moment.
I love
Very
that
good.
moment. Yeah. Callie's like, I heard it too. She goes back. She tosses the keys to Trevor. Go slow. Gary's like, all right, come on, everybody. And then he walks, and just as he gets to his mark at the camera, he's like, yes! You know what I mean? It's a reaction to the dad thing and becoming a dad or whatever. They climb in the Ecto-1. She gives Trevor a few pointers. He rips out onto the streets of New York. Drifting, of course. You know what I mean? Almost running over all sorts of people. And we get
at like 1
all
mile an
sorts
hour.
of, Slimer and the dragon, but then all sorts of ghosts. Again, that I think if anybody would listen to me at Ghost Core, I would say, all right, cool. Now we do the animated series, and it is the Spangler family capturing each and every one of these. Like, just
Monster
keep
of the
track.
week.
Just keep track, so that when we get to you want to make another movie, we're not saying you captured Sam Hain and get whatever. Blah, blah, blah.
Or whatever, or just make the animated show.
But it's in this day of an interconnected universe. You know what I mean?
It's true.
The metaverse.
It's true.
Anyways, we get a bunch of credits set to Ghostbusters, and then you get a fucking just dumb mid-credit scene of this guy getting out of his fucking big rig to buy a soda or whatever, and the mini pups take over the truck.
Dude, when you said it was dumb, I thought you were fucking with me. I thought it was going to be Rick Moranis.
Dude, don't get me
Oh,
started.
what the fuck?
Don't get me
I was like,
started.
oh my God, we're going to get Rick Moranis. And it was just like, and then we got Stay Puft again. I was like, oh, way to not give me what I want.
I think there was like so many like, Rick Moranis, of course, retired from acting when his wife got sick and passed away, and he wanted to be a father. But since then, he's done that Ryan Reynolds commercial, so he's done.
come back.
It's a little thing. I don't know. Has he done anything beyond that? Though
I don't know. But
I feel like
think
you could have
so.
done such a great either mid credits or end credits with him. That all it needed to be like if I'm just
doing the taxes.
and that's all. And so that's what it would have been to me is like have it go back to Melody's Diner. The thing's boarded up. And it's this woman pouring coffee, bitching about it, and he just goes, "Well, actually, it could be a tax write-off." You know what I mean?
I go the other way where he's tabulating all the losses that they've had in the city.
Sure, yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah,
Ernie
yeah.
Hudson just like shuts the door on him.
Yeah, that'd be
That would've been
way
amazing.
better. But I'm just saying, like, an easy one, get him in there and do something. But
I thought he was going in. For some
I
reason,
thought so
remember
too.
that.
I
Damn,
thought
yeah,
for
that
sure.
is- that's a bummer.
Really
and that's
sad.
what's been interesting for it. If I can, one quick
Go for
editorial, like the amount of things I've seen from the people who didn't like the movie and reviewed it, just being like, it is just nostalgia run down your throat. Da, da, da. I'm like, did you watch Afterlife? Like, even for me, when they pulled the Crunch Bar out of his pocket and there's a Twinkie in the fucking
Afterlife was way more
I was like,
nostalgic. Way more.
that was the one of like, do you
There's
remember
so
this
much
thing?
in
Do you
this,
remember
man.
this thing? Do you remember this thing?
There is so much more packed.
I felt
in
like Afterlife was way more like, do you remember this? Because this is here. Whereas
Like-
this was like, yeah, there's the firehouse
Look
in
at
the
the Crunch
Ecto.
Bar. Look at the Crunch Bar. Look at the Crunch Bar. You know, it's like one little random line that they had. You've earned it.
Yeah, yeah.
Weird.
Now it's time for a thing I like to call RaGu BaGu.
RaGu BaGu. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Rad Guys Talk Bad Guys here for the Ghostbusters in universe, I guess.
Ghostbusters.
Tim or Greg? Which one of you have the list?
I got it.
Tim, read us the list so far.
Currently, number 1, we have Gozer and William Atherson and the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Number 2, we have Gozer. Number 3, we have Vigo and
Janos.
Janosch.
Janosch.
And then we have Rowan from 2016.
I remember him.
I would put this at number 1. I think a lot of it falls apart, and I think that the end of it and the why of it all isn't that great. But the Possessor Ghost, I think, was clear, and I thought it was really cool. I liked the ice stuff, and I think that the weaponizing of it all was like dope. This was the most clear. I understand what's happening here for the most part. It's still not perfect. It's not even great. But all the other ones I feel like are just a bunch of random shit.
See, I enjoyed Gozer. I enjoyed the
Gozer the Ghost
mystery that has to unravel in order to get to that. And I just feel like we don't have any of that in this. There's no real detectiving. There's no real mystery. There's no suspense by the time we get to the end of this. Yes, the bad guy was cool. And we've been told multiple times how bad the bad guy is. But even with Vigo, you don't feel that impending doom coming like you do in the first two in this movie. You just kind of go, this is a ice guy and he's coming, and it just feels kind of generic, and it kind of feels like it's been ripped off from other properties. And to me, I just didn't really care about the villain.
I agree with all that. I feel that way about Gozer as well, where it just feels like there's no doom coming. It's just like you're just telling me there's a thing now, and now there's like moving gargoyles and shit.
Yeah,
and
I
it's
think a lot of that is because you see a lot of other crazier shit happening in this. Well, the first Ghostbusters is so smart about the escalation of action, right? The big set piece that we have, the beginning of it, the first ghost they fight is Slimer, and Slimer is scary. You're in scary hallways, and they have to overcome that, and then we escalate it up to this world-ending threat that can manifest a massive Stay Puft Marshmallow Man that can step on churches and kill people, and they have to roast it. And it gets you when you watch that film, or at least when I did when I was a kid, you get to that point where you're like, I'm scared of this. I feel like they're in peril. I feel like they're going to die. Where in this one, we see them get frozen to death and then thawed out, And I just feel like, there's no stakes in this. They're all going to live. No one's going to die in this movie. And that's unfortunate.
So it's Gozer, Ghostbusters 1, Gozer, Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah.
No,
No,
Vigo.
wait.
No,
I'm sorry, Ghostbusters
Gozer,
Afterlife,
Afterlife.
and then Vigo.
Mhm.
Vigo's 3.
I'd put this at 4.
Man, this is like
Right above Roland.
I feel like Gozer and Afterlife is so forgettable for me. So much of Afterlife I've just kind of
Erased.
erased. But Vigo is very memorable to me.
He's Vigo.
Oh,
but I would.
but I don't feel like he was a particularly like. I think it was mainly just everything around him. I think it was the reason I think of Vigo so highly from Ghostbusters 2 is because of Bill Murray interacting with him and the rest of the Ghostbusters interacting with him. I would put this at. I would put this at number. God, it's one of those like I don't like that one, but I like this one more.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. I'd go above Vigo, underneath Gozer from Afterlife. No, I'd go over Gozer from Afterlife. I put this at number 2.
I'm 1. Andy's 2. Nick, where were you?
4. I put him almost dead last.
It's a good question, guys. It's a good question, RaGu BaGu.
Sprung it on you.
Who
Sorry.
knew this was coming? You know what I mean? It's just the fact of like I feel like Garaka's motivating the action here, but he's trapped in a ball for the most part. You know what I mean? Where it's like I enjoyed Vigo being out, and I like the River Slime. Even Gozer, I do think is weak in Afterlife, but I think again, like we have the Terror Dogs killing Egon and that. So I like Garaka, so I clearly like Ghostbusters, so I guess this isn't an indictment of the franchise. I would put it below Vigo.
I don't think you
I
like
would go
it,
4.
man. I don't think you like Ghostbusters.
Number 4 then. What are we putting down? Just Garaka?
Yeah.
Or Dormammu, whichever one.
Whatever.
Let's
Yeah.
come to bargain.
Now it's time to rank the Ghostbusters movies. Currently, number 1 is 1. Number 2 is Afterlife. Number 3 is 2. And number 4 is 2016.
I would put this again at number 4, probably.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that there's just a lot going on in this, and by the middle of it, I'm kind of disinterested in what's happening. I don't know that I'll ever watch this again, where I do want to go back and watch Afterlife again for a lot of those touchstones, for a lot of that heart and nostalgia that was in it.
Sure.
And I just think this movie's doing way too much with way too many talented people, and none of it really adds up to something greater than the sum of its parts.
Wow.
I think I enjoyed this more than Afterlife, but Afterlife I felt like ended really strongly with the easy wins of having those emotional ties to family and all that stuff that always kind of gets me emotional. But I would still put this underneath Ghostbusters 2 at number 4. Because I like Ghostbusters 1 and 2 probably the most of all of these.
You put it where I put it.
I'd put it at number 4. Yeah, because I like this more than Afterlife, but I don't like it more than 2.
Me too.
I don't know if I can put this over 2. I don't think so. Number 4 for me.
Yeah, it's tough for me just because like I just don't particularly care for any of these. And
Can I sell you on number 4?
I hate all this shit.
no, I
Number
don't
4
hate
spot.
it. I just don't.
No, I know
don't.
what you mean,
Like
I know what you mean.
I
don't hit
like
for you.
them.
You
all.
enjoy them
Sure.
fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just
I
like
get you.
it's- And like look at this anything you talk about. I'm just like where I'd rank it. It's funny because the more of these we watch, I feel like it retroactively makes me like all of them less.
That tends to be the case when
So-
they keep making these.
But in parts 1 and 2, I just think back to all of the times that I was really wowed by the great humor from Bill Murray and how every line didn't need to be killer, but it was always witty in some way. It was so dry in its delivery, and like and how much of like the soul of the movie was in in Egon and the old crew. You know, like I
think Bill Murray was great in this new one. Like, I feel like all the stuff that I appreciated about it, like this was the best I've seen him in this as this character because he's cameoed in a bunch or like done little small bits. Like, I preferred him in this than Afterlife. And,
What about in Quantum Mania?
No, I didn't enjoy him there. But yeah, I guess I'm putting this at number 1, but it's close enough between all of them. I think 2 is the only one that I actively don't like. So we got 2 4s and a 1. Greg, where are you gonna go?
Who are you going to call?
Me, of course. This is something I did a longer version of on Greg Way today. So you can check that out later, Nick. It's a different one than the one where I
love
talk
to.
about all the celebrities. in my
Hey,
movie
you know
theater.
what? I talked about Dune on literally every piece of content that I was on for a
But
week and a
like,
half.
I think Ghostbusters is such a special thing to me and people like me. And I would say, if I can go a little bit further than that, even people who
I'll yield the
even
floor.
care about Ghostbusters or movies to a degree, because it's everybody gets something different out of it. You know what I mean? And the legacy of the logo at the very least, right? Like, how the fuck is this thing from '84 so iconic still to this day and whatever, and blah, blah, blah. But people who get into it like I do, I think pull something different from it. And there's so many
Absolutely.
iterations and so many different things. And what I've talked about before on content, especially on the watch alongs and on the Greg Way or whatever, is the fact that to me, as a fan to the level I am, when I put on the jumpsuit, right, and I hang out with you guys or whatever, or I daydream, or I'm talking about a kid till now, I never put it on and go, I'm Egon Spengler. I'm a Ghostbuster, right? I go, I'm Greg Miller. I'm a Ghostbuster. And this came up in the watch-alongs when we were talking about cancelization of people, right? And I was like, man, if any of them did anything fucking bad, fuck them. I don't care. But they wouldn't kill Ghostbusters for me because Ghostbusters is more than the four original
place
guys.
it to people.
It's more than the original guys, right? It is like the stories I've told in my head or the games I've played or the cartoons or whatever it is. And so I'm going to vote Frozen Empire at number 2. However, I'm doing that fully aware that I'm fighting a recency bias, where I do think that if you ask me again in a year, I might vote this number 1.
Wow.
Because I think that this is, again, like
I thought you were going to put it lower.
I was gonna say, should it be the opposite?
recency
fighting
bias.
the recency
I like
bias.
it so much. I'm in it so much right now that I don't want to say it's number 1 and then be like, oh, I was just riding the
okay.
high of a new Ghostbusters
I thought you were doing the
film.
thing that I do, where every time I see something and I really like it, I rank it higher, and then a year later I forget, and I rank it way lower. I'm like, I didn't fucking put that there.
That's part of it, right? But I've talked about, like, again, like Afterlife came out at a time when it wasn't let's go celebrate movies and go be a Ghostbuster, right? This is a thing right now where I just rode in the fucking Ecto 1. I was outside the firehouse with dozens of other Ghostbuster fans, right? And I watched the movie. And then even to be removed from it, to be going into the movie theater to try to get the popcorn bucket to do the thing, and everybody tweeting me images of them and their kids and the thing, and us all talking about Ghostbusters in a fun way. Like, I'm having a moment right now that I don't want to look past
Totally.
and have it do it. But I do think that, like, when people are like, oh, the reviews have been like, Ghostbusters doesn't know what it wants to be. This film doesn't know what it wants to be. Da 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 da. Who is this for? Like, this movie is for me. Like, again, I would say, as much as I loved Ghostbusters 2 as a kid, there was that thing of, oh, it wasn't a happy ending for 84, and it started with them having to rebuild the business. Like, I want them to have the business. I want them to go be Ghostbusters. Like, them chasing a random ghost at the beginning of this movie is so cool to me that it just happened. That's what they went and did, and we got to commit to it, whether it went too long or whatever. And for them just to go out on calls and see the Ecto 1 on the street and rip down and do this thing and, like, have it be that, even though I don't understand why Winston wouldn't tell them about the Ghost Lab, the fact that there is this bigger universe of Ghostbuster stuff happening makes me so happy. And it is that, yeah, there's way too much in this film, and the third act moves too quickly, and I'd love to see all the cut footage and yada, yada, yada. It still is delivering what I really want from it. And I think what I really want from Ghostbusters is more akin to the animated series of, cool, let's go out on jobs. Let's go do these things. And I think, to get to the end and be able to cry over, like, tear up at the Spengler family grabbing the wand, be teared up still when the originals are throwing the switch, and then cry for, her calling him dad at the end, again, is like, oh, holy shit, like, I care about the new folks as much as I care about the old folks to some degree. Again, I'm being, it's a conversation and it's ever changing. And that's something special. And again, it's more about wearing the suit and driving the car and having the pack. You know what I mean? And, like, there's something special to that even if this is the last stop, this movie bombs and it is as bad as people say it is or whatever, and I don't get another one, I got it. I got what I wanted in some regard, right? And I would have done this, that, and the other differently. But this isn't a BVS for me. This isn't a Batman versus Superman where somebody's like, it's as bad as Green Lantern. I'm like, it's better than Green Lantern. It's a good movie. It's not the movie I want. This is the movie I want. Would have edited it, changed some things, dropped some characters, but this is the movie I want as a lifelong Ghostbusters fan.
There you go. It's not a 4 out of 10, everybody. Let us know in the comments below what you think about this if you go to see it, and what you would want to see from a Ghostbusters movie in the future, or animated series, or anything in between. Like I said, next week we are returning to the Monsterverse with Godzilla Cross Kong, the new Empire. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how much it takes Monarch into play. I doubt it's going to at all. But Monarch, pretty good show. Maybe you should watch that instead. But anyways, till next time, love you all. Goodbye.